Good. Then I'll ask Coverage to come. I was wondering if he gets a bottle of water.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't want you getting it. I'll ask Coverage to come.
Well, one way or the other, I'll make sure. You're gonna have to speak loud enough, because of the masks anyway, to make sure that the microphone gets up. It's pretty sensitive. Tested it, but.
Items that are listed for vote on the public board agenda are sent to the Board of Education members weekly as informative items. Each member has the ability to request topics to be discussed in committee meetings as needed. Due to the attendance limitations required by COVID-19 regulations, the public may not attend the meeting in person and is invited to view the meeting remotely. A link was provided on the district's website for the meeting. Public notice pursuant to Open Public Meetings Act. Public notice of this meeting has been given by the board secretary in the following manner. Posting written notice on the official bulletin board of the Voorhees Township Public Schools Administrative Building on August 4th. Sending written notice to the Courier Post on August 4th. Filing written notice to the clerk of Voorhees Township on August 4th. Posting on the district website on August 4th. Can you please rise to the flag?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Dunleavy? Here. Ms. Galliano? Here. Dr. Levy? Mr. Nelson?
Here.
Mr. Schmutz?
Here.
Mrs. Van Auken? Here. Mrs. Watson?
Here.
Mr. Carr?
Here.
Mrs. Wallace?
Here. So today we're getting together for a work session to review the roadmap plan to restart, renew, and engage, which was delivered on July 30th. Each board member is going to have a chance to speak so that we're not talking over each other. I'm going to start, and Mr. Parker, if you want to go after me. In discussing the roadmap plan, there are several, the obvious of which is COVID-19 and preventing exposure and spreading of it within our school, but also giving our children a proper and appropriate education. I understand some parents feel their children need to be back at school. However, there are also parents that do not feel comfortable sending their children back at this time. Our current plan offers both options, a hybrid model where our children will be able to be in school part of the week and remote part of the week. This would allow proper social distancing and the option for complete remote learning. Next, the concern of safety. Safety of our students and that of our teachers. As Dr. Gentile has explained, our school has implemented many safety protocols from social distancing, masks, hand sanitizer, hand washing, UV lights, proper maintenance of HVAC, and many other items. The concern over safety are valid, but I believe properly addressed. We need to look at the bigger picture. As we know, learning and teaching is not a one-size-fits-all. Some children do well with virtual learning and have the support at home to do so, while other children do not do well with virtual learning and or don't have proper support. So many times we say it takes a village to raise a child. As it is currently, our children are getting limited social exposure. Some are suffering emotional distress, and they don't have that personal interaction that they need. We have to remember the toll that this is taking on our children. Some of them don't even understand why this is happening. For these reasons, I'm supporting the hybrid model, as our children need and are entitled to an appropriate education, and we are striving to do this as safely as possible. Mr. Parker?
Well, I didn't prepare anything, so I'll sort of talk off the cuff. I just always felt that in the beginning that we should have come up with what would be our main objective Would it be to get as many of the kids back in person learning as much as possible, or be virtual or remote as much as possible? And design a plan that will lead us toward that direction. Clearly, we're not going to ever have a plan that is going to make everyone happy. We can only do the best we can do. I think that the time constraints that were put on us were not proper, so we could even think out of the box. We could have thought out of the box. We could have just hypothetically closed down the middle school and make that all virtual, but yet make it more K through 5 classes in the middle school, and see if we have enough staff that maybe all the K through 5 kids could have gone back 5 days a week. I feel that I'm in a position now that I'll support the plan only because I don't really have many other choices. And so that's just my feelings. But you know, I mean, I feel sorry for these children. I really do. That you hear from all the experts that having face-to-face in school is the healthiest thing. Forget the learning aspect. It's just mentally the healthiest thing for these children, and we're denying them of that. As far as our staff and children go, of course we want them all protected. I mean, that's always been on our minds, to make sure they're protected as much as possible. But there's no perfect situation. And I look at doctors and nurses, they're faced with this. They've been faced with this for months and months and months. Yet they're essential personnel, they go. People in supermarkets are essential personnel, and they go to work. I believe our teachers are essential to these children's mental well-being. So, thank you.
Mr. Nelson, do you have any comments you'd like to share?
Sure. I think that I think the plan is a good plan. Let me just first start off by saying I've seen a bunch of emails from people in the community, I've seen a bunch of emails from teachers, and everybody's right. I haven't seen anybody's position that I could say is wrong. I mean, everybody has an opinion, everybody's opinion makes sense. This is the most unprecedented thing, and we can all agree on that we've ever seen. And, you know, I know I'm rounding numbers, but we have 3,000 students. We have the parents of 3,000 students. We have close to 300 teachers. There is not going to be a plan where everybody's going to be happy because everybody has an agenda, not an agenda. Everybody has, you know, something that they believe is important to them. So we have parents that would rather have their children in school, which is always a good idea, which is what the governor wanted, and which we all believe, and I don't think anybody would disagree, that it's better for the student to be in the school. But at the same time, I mean, you have a whole group of people, whether they be teachers or parents, that believe that the school should be remote. We should be remote and stay remote, at least for the present time. And we're not going to have a plan where everybody's going to agree on it. Some people will be happy with it, some people will not be happy with it. I think the plan is a good one, based upon all of the information that's out there, information that came from various doctors, medical, CDC, state, governor. I mean, I think the plan is a good one based upon all the restrictions that were also put on us. I don't think that there's going to be a plan where we can guarantee everybody's safety. It's just impossible to do that. You're not safe if you go to the supermarket, if you go to get your haircut, if you go to the beach, to the shore. I mean, we can't guarantee everybody's safety. The best we can do is to make sure that we use the best equipment and the best procedures that are known at this time. And I believe that in the plan, those procedures and protections are all outlaid in the plan. My only concern at this point is whether or not we are ready to open, whether we have everything in place or will have everything in place, whether we have all of the necessary protections, equipment, spacing on the bus, spacing in the classrooms. My only issue is whether or not we have all that in place. And if we do, we should open. If we don't, we should consider going remote. So that's all.
Okay. Mr. Schmitz, do you have any comments with that?
Sure. I think we have to be honest that there is no perfect plan, like everyone has said so far. If we make decisions based on the best interest and safety of our children and teachers, I think we'll be okay. I think one of the keys is that we have the flexibility moving forward, whatever plan we choose, that we can move on a dime if we have to. If we have to go 100% remote, that we'll be able to do that. If we're able to get everybody back in the building, that we'll be able to do that in a efficient manner. Again, we're not going to make everybody happy. There's always going to be someone who is going to disagree with what the decision we make. But I think if we're flexible and if we're prepared, as Richard said earlier, I think we'll be fine.
Mrs. Dunley, do you have any comments you would like to make?
I think it's a good plan, and I think it does have built-in flexibility that we definitely need to have. Like John said, that if we suddenly have to go all remote or parents for some reason do want to change, David has put that in, that they would have that opportunity. No plan can be perfect. But we do have a lot of options for parents that they can choose from, and I think the building flexibility is excellent. I think we're as ready as we can be. We just have to look at the numbers in New Jersey. We have a whole month, almost a month left at the shore, and I don't know how cautious people are being. They're sort of getting a little loose with masks and social distancing, and as long as the numbers don't go way up, we should be ready to go. And I think going to the half day is a real good idea, because these kids can't, when he said they had to wear the mask all the time without the breaks that we try to build in, they couldn't go for the full day. That's too much to ask of kids, I think.
Thank you. Mrs. Galliano, do you have any comments?
Yeah. I believe that our plan is a good plan. It addresses both sides of the spectrum that we're facing. I think we've done a good job in preparing for all the different aspects that we can be faced with. Again, I also understand that either way, we're not going to make everyone happy. And I don't think anybody can make everyone happy during this time, and this is an unprecedented time, so that's to be expected. But I support our plan, and I just, I understand that our staff is concerned, but we have their safety in mind, and they have to trust us. They have trusted us for as many years as they've worked here, so they need to trust us with this and be able to come together and show a unified front. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Van Hoppen, do you have any comments?
Sure. So I think first, to my fellow board members, I know we all have differences on this really important topic. It is maybe the most important topic that we have ever made, and one that impacts our whole community and the community that we were all elected to serve. Do you guys all remember when we thought hiring a superintendent was our biggest lift? So I think that, I think one thing that we can all agree on is that it's been quite a year. It's been a year full of just big decisions and challenging decisions. But I also think that we can all agree that we are all here for the same reasons. We are all here to provide our students with a world-class education. And we are also here to provide our staff and our teacher with a great place to work. And I know we all want a plan that's going to do just that. So today I am really looking forward to this collaboration. I'm looking forward to us collaborating together, looking forward to working together, and to us listening to each other, and finding a plan that keeps our children and our staff and our teachers safe and healthy. So having said that, in my opinion, I'm sorry I don't agree with all of you, but it is not safe to go back to school for our staff, our teachers, and our children. It's not safe to put them all in classrooms and our buses and in our hallways. I'm recommending that we wait until the virus is under control before we open our schools to our students. Every day, we're learning something new about this virus. It is new and it's scary. And there are only a few certainties that we actually have. We know that in just the last few weeks, cases are on the rise in children. In fact, in just the last few weeks, all COVID cases in children, a quarter of them just happened in the last couple of weeks. We know that children carry the virus with very little symptoms or signs, which actually makes their case more complex to transmit in the case of transmission to other people. We know for certain that wearing masks and social distancing are ways to protect each other. And we also know that kids ages 5 to 13 are really going to struggle wearing masks and social distancing for even just a couple of hours. So, but I think one of the most important pieces of knowledge that we do not have today is the kind of systemic damage that this virus does and long-term effects that this virus does to children. We do not know what the CDC knows. It does not know what kind of long-term damage this does to their lungs and other organs. And I am not ready to make a decision that may impact the health of for the rest of their lives.
Thank you. Mrs. Watson?
Thank you, and I totally agree and echo the words of Ms. Panokin. I'm sorry, I didn't prepare something either. I didn't know that's, I wasn't exactly sure how this working session was gonna go. That being said, the two paramount concerns for me are safety and a high level of education. And while I commend all of us, Dr. Gentile included, and all of the administration for trying to put together a plan that addresses, PPE and social distancing and masks and getting the school and UV lights and all of the things that we put in place. And I think that those things are fantastic. I just don't think it's enough. And more importantly, I think that the education of our students is going to severely suffer. One, we're getting a note just in this meeting, because we're all wearing masks, that people can't hear us. So how are the students that are going to be remote watching their teachers teaching class hear their students? There's going to be a lot of difficulty in the transmission of information from the remote to the in-person, to back to the remote, back to the in-person. I have a major problem with parents' ability to change outside of a marking period, because then our teachers have no idea how many students are going to be in person, in class, on any given day. So they have to come to school scared, because we're all scared about transmitting and contracting the disease. They're going to go to school thinking, I have 12 students on day one, and they're going to teach to 12 and prepare and get ready and have lesson plans, and then be prepared to have 12 students remote. And then the next week they come into school and they have 8 students. And the next week they have 4 students. And then they go back to 12 students. I don't think that's a fair ask of our teachers in the first place. I think that's a really difficult thing for them to manage on top of the virus, the masks, the social distancing. I think that it's going to make the educational experience suffer greatly. I also think that, like Ms. Panokin said, the kids aren't going to want to stay in math. We've been sitting here for 20 minutes. I'm uncomfortable. I mean, we turned the air off because we wanted that noise to go away so that the sound would be better for everybody watching, but I'm uncomfortable. I can't imagine my kids wanting to sit and try and pay attention and learn. We know how difficult it is for children to pay attention to anything. So I think it's just going to be very difficult for them to manage, and now they're not going to be nourished because there's no lunch. So we're asking them to sit in class with a mask, uncomfortably, not being nourished, and we all understand that food is essential to allowing them to pay attention, to take in the education as best as possible. A snack is not going to do it, they need lunch. And when they get home, they're going to be starving. They're not going to be able to get back onto the computer and finish lessons. I don't even know if that's part of the plan, or if we're just truncating the educational system altogether. The other major part of this problem is people are not, I get that we want to put our kids in school for the social and emotional part, but it is not school as we know it. It is a totally different version of school. It's a no movement, 6 feet apart from your friends. You don't get to touch them. You don't get to hug them. You don't get to hug your teachers. You don't get to be with the people the way you want to engage. I know it's hard for me not to come into the room. We all used to hug and kiss everybody when we came. It just completely messes with them. And I think that we're putting them in a situation that's just going to exacerbate that, because I want to hug Rachel. I want to work with the project on it. I want to go play with my toys in the corner in kindergarten. And I want to be able to facilitate those great, innovative, collaborative environments with other students. And you can't do that. They are stuck with being plexiglass and face masks and all the other things. And let us not forget, scared teachers. That is not an effective or good environment to foster education, social, emotional welfare, anything. Whereas I think the best way to kind of move forward is to all go remote. Let us get our bearings. Let us figure out how to teach in this environment. And then as time progresses and our teachers get more comfortable and the virus gets more under control, and hopefully there's some sort of immunization sometime soon, we can start to move into a world where we can contemplate a hybrid approach where people won't be so scared and devastated and it won't be as restrictive. So I support waiting at least until the first marking period is over, or until January 1st, whatever. Again, I would like us to collaborate and come up with something that makes sense, but I can't support going into the hybrid model right now. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Unfortunately, Ms. Levy was not able to attend, but she did just want to mention that she hopes the community members understand that we are all working for the best possible solution. We must also acknowledge that no solution will make all constituents satisfied. However, we must keep in mind that our mission, which is to serve the children, all of the children in our district, not mine, not yours, but all of them. She does have some questions that they will be answered in the future. Do any other board members have any comments or questions in response, or?
If I can, I'll just sort of respond a little bit to what I've heard. I appreciate everybody's vantage point, input, and thoughts regarding what's best for the students and the staff for September. As the superintendent, my job and my mission for the road back was to keep the kids at the center of our thoughts, what's in the best interest of our students. And then in the guidance that's been provided through the New Jersey Department of Ed, through their road back and their checklist for what we need to do in terms of mitigating risk and creating a circumstance that meets their health and safety guidelines, that's what we set out to do. And I do believe that we've accomplished that at this point. I don't want to get into whether we should or we shouldn't return. There are valid points on both sides of the argument. I believe many of you have already said that, and I've listened to countless parents and interacted with countless parents and staff members over the last month plus. And there are great opinions and points made on both sides of the argument. At the end of it, do I feel that through a hybrid model that's been presented, have we addressed the health and safety concerns as outlined by the New Jersey Department of Ed? Have we prepared the PPE and safety gear and everything that's needed for our staff to return? Yes. Do I feel we have protocols and procedures in place for moving in smaller cohorts of students in for an early dismissal day? I absolutely do. Whether or not we move forward with this plan, again, I will, defer to the wisdom of the board and the overall majority of what you want to do. But I feel strongly, my team feels strongly that we can safely implement the plan as it is. One of the keys was to provide parents with the choice. That was a very important part. By making the choice for them to go full remote, I worry that we are, pushing what we believe onto the parent and removing their ability to choose. And I would only want to do that if I didn't feel that we could meet the Department of Ed's roadback standards, which I've already said we can, and that we can staff our buildings appropriately. And at this point, we have, a list of staff members and students who have requested conversations, meetings to discuss further accommodations because of specific legitimate medical concerns. They are the exceptions that are permitted, in this guidance. I have no reason to believe, based on what I have in front of me at this time, that we are not going to be able to implement our contingency plans to staff the building and have our students be able to come in and participate in the hybrid model. For students, I have no reason to believe at this point that we can't meet their accommodation requests as well. And again, I go back and I want to caution everyone to just really think about the fact that at this time, we've given parents the choice to decide. The data at this point suggests 55% of the community's parents are signed up for a hybrid schedule, which will include the in-person component. 45% then chose a full remote, and that is up to date. That is as of today, as close as we can tell. I just want us to think about that 55% that wants to send their children back before we make any decisions not to implement the plan as it is. Lastly, one of the other charges that came, with the directive was to have a plan that could pivot and change and be fluid in order to meet the environmental changes and the needs of the community. So if given the direction, we can pivot to a full return. I can't wait for that to happen until the time comes when we don't have to wear masks inside. And I thought it was important that we demonstrate this because, again, we are going to be asking our students and teachers to do it. It is uncomfortable, but like anything, I believe the kids will adapt quicker than the adults. And we can pivot to a full remote if needed. So just from the presentation on June 30th, the plan, the two major changes that we did make, I wanted to just touch upon those if I could. The first major change that we put in based on some of the feedback we heard was to make sure that we have symptom screening for staff and students at the building and before they enter, in addition to asking parents to check every morning. That feedback was loud and clear from everyone. That simply relying on parents, that wasn't going to do it. I've talked to many parents who kindly and honestly said, with all good intentions, I may forget. So let's have, they want us to have that. And we have ordered the equipment that will allow us to do that. Eastern High School, we're going to follow what they're doing, which is a thermal imaging camera. They will be placed at the entrances. We will have backup thermometers as well to help support us in that endeavor. Building level principals have plans for supervision for arrival from the time either the bus arrives or from the time the parent drop-off arrives. They've amended their previous drop-offs, thinking about this, anticipating it. So we're prepared for that. The second change, as was discussed, is the early dismissal schedule. There were many reasons that that decision was made, not one in particular, but I think once you put them all together, I think it's a good idea for us as a temporary solution to starting this school year off to reduce it to our early dismissal. It's not a true half day. It is less than 2 hours difference in the school day. So it's still a full day of academics, which I could have Dr. Young speak on. Also, the schedules are on the district website, have been for people to see. Students will get a full day of academics, a full bout of academics. They're just going to be shorter classes. We eliminate the lunch periods in the cafeteria because that was one of the major pieces of input we also heard was fear over serving food inside in a cafeteria style way. By removing that, it does a couple things, but one of the things it does primarily is it will allow our custodial staff that would have otherwise been assigned to the cafeteria cleanup between lunches to now be assigned to do bathrooms and other areas of the school. Clark, Mr. Matthews has a great plan set up for that. Bathrooms are going to be scheduled to be regularly cleaned on the hour. And then additionally, as need arises, we're going to have additional supervision provided for bathrooms in general by being able to utilize our cafeteria staff because they're not going to be tied up actually doing the lunches. We're going to use them as supervisors to help with hallways, bathroom breaks, and those sorts of things to give an extra layer of supervision on top of it. All of these things sort of combine for a great way to start to see how it's going to be, let our kids get accustomed to wearing the masks or face coverings, letting the staff do it as well. We realize, though, it is a long day, and I agree 100% with Ms. Watson when she says, you know, kids need sustenance, they need nutrition. So again, a snack can be defined as whatever that individual student needs for that moment. We're going to let them take a break. Each student has, as we talked before, the plexiglass cubbies in the classrooms. So it'll be safe for them to take the mask off for a period of time so that they can have their snack and meal and lunch. If at some point we are ready to go back to our full day, and we can do that as well. So I wanted to make you aware of those two changes. If I can, I'll address one of the other major sort of bits of feedback that I've been picking up on and having come in, and I know you have as well, and that's on HVAC and ventilation. In the road back plan, ventilation is mentioned in 2 places as I reviewed it, and we are confident that we have met those standards as outlined in the road back document. Our HVAC systems are serviced well and have been for over, 15 plus years that I can attest to from what the firm that oversees and helps keep that systems running well. I know that in talking to Mr. Matthews, we have also done some additional things to make sure that those systems are going to be top notch. For the interior rooms that don't have the extra layer of having a window accessible to crack the window for additional fresh air, in those systems, they're going to be putting in the UV equipment, which will help purify and sanitize the air before it even comes out of the unit ventilator as it comes out. So that's going to be an additional piece that I think is important.
And those are different than what we already have, because the pieces that we already have, people cannot be in the room during that, right?
It's a different piece of equipment. This is in duct.
Got it.
It's in the, you won't see it. It's right built into the unit itself on the discharge side. It just treats the air as it's discharged into the space.
Lastly, again, and then Clark, if I miss anything, please feel free to jump in. But again, in the road back document for ventilation, it states that in accordance with the NJ DOE checklist for reopening, our elementary and middle schools have adequate ventilation, which includes maintaining operational heating and ventilation systems where appropriate, ensuring the recirculated air has a fresh air component, which it does, opening windows if AC is not provided, and maintain filters for AC units in accordance with manufacturer recommendations, which we do and have. And Mr. Matthews has been in touch with our manufacturer, as well as the company that is our hygienist for the air quality, and confirmed all these things as well. So our systems are running well. Our ventilation is more than adequate. You'll hear different things about filter levels. The filter levels, MERV ratings and the such. Really, when you get up into the higher MERV ratings, a lot of that is for hospitals and operating rooms and surgical situations. We are running our HVAC systems the way they are designed to be run, and they're in good shape. So just wanted to also talk about that.
Dawn, am I allowed to ask the question now? So does that mean that our systems are running so well that we don't need to have doors open and windows open? Because while I read that that's another avenue, I also have concerns about the safety of our students when the windows are open because of, for lack of other reasons. And I don't necessarily think that that's a fix in some situations.
Agreed.
So can you just talk to that a little bit?
So actually, we have also consulted with Chief Voorhees to make sure that any adjustment we were to make to that sort of thing would meet his safety protocol. So indoor classrooms, we're not going to recommend propping doors open for additional circulation. That was something that was discussed, but upon investigation and consultation with HVAC as well as our security, we don't think that's a good idea. So we're not going to be doing that. As far as opening a window, we're talking three inches. The univentilator system, the system itself pulls in fresh air, and we have a high standard for school districts. School districts have among the highest in terms of what the univentilators have to have for fresh air intake. So that's another good thing in our favor. So opening the windows a few inches, I don't think that's anything that's new in terms of security protocols for a regular school day. I'm sure staff open the windows occasionally to get some fresh air in. The windows are not large and accessible to forced entry and those sorts of things. So we will continue to run our safety protocols in accordance with the NJDOE as well. So again, that's not going to be a risk factor. That's a great point. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. One, I may have misunderstood. Did you say each student is going to have a plexiglass cubby around their desk?
We have purchased enough for each classroom for there to be a set of 12 in each class, which would be enough for the cohort students. If they want to use that, and the teacher feels that that is applicable, primarily around, I would say, the snack time, where even though you're still 6 feet apart, the governor wants us to keep face coverings on at all times. Obviously, you have to be able to snack. That is allowed. He doesn't expect us to keep our face coverings on when you eat and those sorts of things, but we are going to take additional mitigation strategies to try to keep the kids safe. So that would be a good time for those cubbies, the clear plexiglass to be used.
Okay. Also, you did touch on medical excuses. Do we have anything, hypothetically, let's say a child has a medical excuse, they want to come back, but they're not allowed to wear a face mask, whether it be asthma or I'm not a doctor, so I have no idea why, but.
I've been in,
plan for
I've been in
that.
consultation with the school district physician over our plan in general, and then specifically how to handle requests for students with specific requests for accommodation. So I'll be working with her in terms of how best to accommodate. In some circumstances, it could be that they can wear a face covering into their classroom, and then maybe they will have to stay behind that covering. That could be an example of an accommodation, as long as we can secure them social distance away and also have that barrier to help protect them. Perhaps add the clear shield in addition, but that would be for very specific students with very specific medical needs. We would be looking to do those sorts of accommodations. It may also be that we aren't able to accommodate their request, and maybe it's an accommodation that they have to be on the remote, full remote instead, while this is the pandemic is what it is. But we're going to look to solve all the work with the parents to try to come up with accommodations if they want their kids in for those 2 days, and there's a legitimate medical reason they can't have the mask.
I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, but am I understanding it correctly that at this moment in time, you're in the position that we are 100% ready to do the hybrid, including coming back to school? I mean, the way you outlined coming back to school.
Yeah, according to the New Jersey Department of Ed road back guidance, yes.
And the last question, then I'll be done.
I can't guarantee there will not, be a positive test. I can't guarantee that.
No, I'm not, look, you can't guarantee
Right.
anything.
Based on
The only thing we can
yes.
guarantee the parents of this community is that we have met all the restrictions that have been placed upon us, and we are ready to go.
Correct.
And there's no exceptions.
No.
Okay. The last question I have is, you did briefly say that, and I may be reading into it, but you never know. The governor could come out and say, well, there's no more face-to-face learning and we're over them. If that's the case, I think in the beginning, when it first started and we were virtual teaching or kids were virtually learning, I think we did the best we could because it was just thrust upon us. And quite frankly, we had no idea what we were doing. We were learning as we went. But I think we should have learned a lot from some of our own shortcomings back then. So in planning ahead, do we have a plan for 100% virtual learning? And if we do, in that plan, I'd really like to see a lot of layers of accountability, from the administration to the principals to the teachers and so forth. And then the question I would have is, if it is all virtual, would the teachers still be permitted to come into the school and teach from the school, so it looks more like an educational environment as best as possible?
Yeah, so I'll address the last one first. Not only would it be permitted, that would be what we were requiring for full remote. So long as under that hypothetical that you presented, it was the governor mandating full remote, and they are able to drive into work. We would want them to take advantage of the resources that we've invested in to make sure that our technology we can control and make sure that they have the best possible equipment to do the job. So we've invested in a lot of the technology that's going to allow us to do the job better. We've also learned a great deal about how to provide remote learning in a way that's more meaningful. And we've also created, I think, a better accountability system for how we'll monitor and keep the fidelity across the district in terms of how the remote learning is implemented.
At this point, I would like to give a compliment, though. I know it sounds strange, but we made a lot of forward-thinking moves, like, whether like UV lighting. We thought of doing a lot of these things way before we are at the point where we are now, that some of these items that we have previously ordered may not even have been available because of the high demand on them. So my compliments to whoever was involved in that.
Team effort.
You know, I mean, our district's always been considered a forward-thinking district. And a lot of people are questioning that right now, but we're learning as we go too.
I think this is certainly a time we're all questioning lots of things.
So I have a question, Monica, I'm sorry. Monica brought up about the food, and obviously our kids are going to be starving. So you're saying they're allowed to bring something a little bit more substantive to eat. What about the kids that are on the free and reduced lunch program? Are we gonna have an option for them?
Excellent, yes. Helen, I was looking forward to her. As you know, in the March to June, I think one of the things that this district did exceptionally well during that time was making sure that we provided food for our free and reduced families. Nothing's going to change there. She's actually been on top of it from the start, working with our NutriServe rep. We are going to make sure that they have food distribution runs on the early dismissal days, and they will have meals for all 5 days that they can then use to supplement their snacks as they're bringing them in. So, you know, technically, we're giving them 5 days worth of lunches. So when they bring it in for snack, it is a lunch, but it's considered their snack. So again, if you're sending in your child and you know they have a bigger appetite than most, instead of just sending in maybe some carrot sticks, you could send in half a sandwich or something. So it's a snack. It could easily also, if the district decided to transition into having lunch in the class, still on that early dismissal schedule if we wanted. So it really wouldn't change much other than using the word lunch over snack in this scenario for early dismissal. I think having the day right now shortened the 2 hours is going to be a good way to start to let students get accustomed to sitting and wearing these masks. And I think it'll be a good way to start for that. But we can keep it where we free up our cafeteria and not sit in the cafeteria and have that larger group and still allow the kids to have the lunch if we want. So we could do that. And go ahead.
I just wanted to add to the meal situation. On the checklist, the New Jersey part of that checklist, it does provide a section for meals, and most of them are on site. So like everything that was on the checklist, we're actually not doing at this point because it says stagger the use of the cafeteria, provide discontinuation of buffet meals. If you're using the cafeteria, you space the kids out 6 feet. So we were planning for that at first.
And we are prepared at some point to do that.
Everything is marked off in the cafeteria. Clark and his guys put X's every 6 feet. So like the cafeteria is ready. The meals that were going to be distributed, we had hot meals and cold meals, I guess you call them. The hot ones would already be prepackaged in a hinged container that had sections in it. But then we had to pull away from that because people just felt uncomfortable. They felt it was too soon to go into the cafeteria. So we pulled away from it with the half day or the shortened day program. And the Department of Agriculture came out with a letter, I believe it was on August 6th, that said meals need to be available to all students, whether you're full remote, partial remote, whatever. So that made us kind of gear up into what we did between March and June. So I reached out to NutriServe, and we had a few different video conferences, and Diane was on them too, just to figure out how we would pull this off. Because what will happen is the free and reduced students would have to get meals even when they're not there. Like, so if you're a Monday, Tuesday person, you would need meals for 3 more days. If you were a Thursday, Friday person, you would need meals for 3 more days. But also the students that don't qualify for free and reduced might want meals too. And so the meals have to be available for everyone to purchase or to get free and reduced. So what we came up with is I then reached out to our transportation companies again, because they were such a big help during the time period of March through June distributing the meals. that I said, this is something that's probably gonna happen again, whether we're partial or full remote, would you guys be willing to help again? Which indirectly, that's a great idea because they're transporting 4 days a week and we would have 1 day, but they're not. So we chose Wednesday to be the day for meal distribution. So the way it's proposed right now is that we will just do the same thing that we did during March through June. And I'll go help again, but the cafeteria workers and the food service director will get together on Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. They'll package up all the meals. We won't do hot meals at this point because we can't distribute hot meals. They'll get all the meals together for 5 days, lunch and breakfast. The bus companies will come to the middle school just like they did before. We'll load up the buses and then they'll go out to the 5 schools and the 3 remote locations and the parents can pick up the meals at that point. Meals are available again to purchase if a family wants to purchase them. It'll be a roster system, so they'll check it off and then the cafeteria ladies will just key it in once they get back. I mean, they are back once they get the form. And the free and reduced children will be checked off as well. So meals will be available for anybody. They'll just have to come out and get it on Wednesdays at their location.
So I've monitoring some of these questions, and we seem to be getting a lot of questions about what if we have a positive test? Could you maybe take a few minutes to go over the protocol for a positive test at one of the buildings?
Sure. So I'll start with staff tests, and student tests are very similar except for some slight differences. But if we get notified that a staff member has tested positive, and let's do a couple hypotheticals. The first hypothetical is they were not feeling well at work, left work early, go home, they're out, they get tested, they stay out, obviously, because they have symptoms, and then they report back to us a positive test. First thing we do is contact Camden County Health Department. Contact them, we confirm with them by telling them we've been told there has been a positive test for COVID from so-and-so. The road back document and the requirements have us work with them collaboratively to provide, if we have their address, if we have their name, those kinds of things, we do provide that to them. They then confirm or would maybe tell us, no, that's not true. I doubt that, but let's say they confirm at that point, they tell us, okay, yes, you have a positive test on one of your members. There's a checklist that they put out, the county health department put out. I will be glad to put that up on the website, but I think I also sent it to the board members. And that checklist talks about close contacts, anyone who has been or is considered a close contact. And that is, again, coordinated with the county health department. They tell us who has been close contact. We work with them to provide any information we can. Let's say that a staff member was in a vehicle with another one of our staff members driving from building to building to building. All right, so in that scenario, that person would be considered a close contact. They then have to quarantine. They would go home, they would be out for 14 days. The member who tested positive is out 10 days from the time of first symptoms, plus however long it takes for them to be 24 hours without a fever or symptom and symptom-free without the help of medication of any kind, without ibuprofen or any of those sorts of things. Then they're permitted to return to work with, with that scenario. If others are not considered close contacts, they are just encouraged to continue to monitor for symptoms, like we tell all our staff members. Every staff member is told and reminded, you need to be cognizant of any symptoms that you may have and report them if you have them. But as long as they kept their face coverings on, which we are mandating our staff do, and they're not considered a close contact, nothing changes for them.
What about the students?
So
So,
children be considered close contacts?
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
which student?
Well, if a teacher,
Yeah.
hypothetically, this is all hypothetical, if a teacher.
In
has
a
symptoms-
classroom?
Yeah, and they report it to you, you go through the whole procedure.
They may,
Are the children, just by a mere factor in the classroom, are they considered close
not
contacts?
just by a mere factor of being in the classroom, they're not. The CDC, the Camden County Health Department will take all that information and then they'll make a determination. They are the ones that will
And the
tell us.
funny thing is, what did Joaquin name his daughter? Amelia.
So,
Do we notify the, let's say you have 12 kids in a class, and group A is there for Monday and Tuesday, and group B is there Thursday and Friday, and we find out Monday, the week after, that a particular teacher had symptoms, are we going to be notifying all those students' parents?
again, I would take the direction from the Camden County Health Department. They will tell us exactly who needs to be notified, who would need to be quarantined, and they'll direct us. It'll come from them. And I don't mean to sidestep it, but that's what we have been
Some form
told.
of contact tracing, but.
So they could conceivably tell us that the students that were in the class with that teacher, they just need to be told that a teacher that they came in contact with was sick. Increase your attention to your symptoms.
Right, so then they would be notified.
I'm saying they could be, again, at the direction of the Camden County Health Department. I would want to inform parents, because I know as a parent, I would want to be informed. Again, I think the likelihood is, yes, you'll know, because the Camden County Health Department would tell us to. I just don't want to speak for them in an unknown circumstance that I'm not 100%.
Let's say they told us they don't have to be told. Do you think it would be still, I'm just asking, do you think it'd be wise if we don't?
Attorney?
If we were instructed by the entity that's in charge of keeping our kids safe to do A, B, and C, we would basically take that direction unless it's contrary to our policy. So we could be more protective, but right now, it would be foolish for the superintendent to say he's going to do anything other than what he's told to do by the county health authorities. Now, if we disagree, that's a case-by-case basis. We may very well opt as an administration to take the more cautious approach. But our obligation is to notify the county as soon as we have a positive, as soon as we have a symptom, and then we get our directions from them. And if we disagree, you're right, that's an issue. And if it comes down to school districts disagreeing with the county health department, we may have bigger issues than that.
Well, but I think to disagree and get more protection is different than to disagree and get less protection.
Amen. And they may not want to notify as many folks as we want to. But first, we have to give them the right to make that
Sure,
initial.
no, I understand.
And we would have the ability to do that.
Oh, absolutely. We could be more, we can notify more subject to HIPAA and everything else than they're instructing us to. But first and foremost, let's not bite off more than we need to, or we have the expertise to. When our county health department's telling us A, B, and C, we do what they tell us.
And if I can, I'll just want to add this last little caveat. If I felt at all that the advice I was getting from the Camden County Health Department was not protecting our students or staff the way I felt the standard needed to be in my responsibility as superintendent, I would talk to the attorney, talk to the board, and then I would do what I thought was right. So in that case, if telling more people is going to give us a better chance to protect someone, as long as it's not, again, against HIPAA confidentiality, I would do so.
Yeah, I'm concerned, this raises a lot of concerns for me in particular, and I get from a liability standpoint, I get Howard's comment, but from a parent standpoint, and a parent who fully understands and appreciates liabilities, if my child, because the CDC or the county health department has said, the students in this class are not a close contact, and therefore you don't need to notify them. And then my child contracts COVID. I'm pissed.
Right.
That's first and foremost. I'm super pissed. I'm even more pissed because guess what? The county health department doesn't know everything that goes on in the classroom. So Bobby trips and falls, starts bleeding. The teacher, Bobby doesn't have a mask on for whatever, maybe he was in the middle of eating lunch and he got crazy and needed to get some exercise and jumped out of his chair, fell, hurt himself. Teacher runs over to Bobby because teacher was eating a lunch too, or taking a snack too, or doing something. And there's two people that don't have a mask on. I know that that's a crazy, and I'm coming up with it, but it could happen, we don't know.
Right.
And as people get more lax and more comfortable, that may happen more often. So now the CDC doesn't know that happened. The teacher may not remember that happened. It was a moment in time and they're dealing with a lot of other things. So when it's reported to the county health department, that's never been told. And now Bobby is at significant risk of having contracted COVID, but nobody knows because nobody was contacted. I just,
So
Yeah.
just
And
2
even if
points,
they
2
didn't have
points.
masks on.
right,
Two points. One, it is a collaborative relationship with the health department. So what information we do have, if we had that anecdotal, something happened and they were, without the masks on and the two kids went into the bathroom and then something, if we knew something, we provide that to them to help them make a decision. It is a back and forth. And in the scenario where we didn't know that happened, we would still, even if it's not a close contact, we would report to that community that there was someone who tested positive. Please be vigilant and look for any sign of symptoms even more thoroughly than you would any other time. So we would be telling, it doesn't necessarily mean close contact are the only ones that are told. Close contacts are the ones that are told to quarantine.
But the entire community, so if a teacher is positive at Hamilton, are the Osage children told that somebody in the district is positive?
Again, I would defer to see the Camden County Health Department. However, I know that if it was something that affects one school, I would say that school community would definitely know.
Yeah.
If there's a chance that because of the person at this school could possibly have an influence on that school, then we would tell that school as well. We could, I think the way news travels, I would safely say that it wouldn't be a bad idea to simply just say, we had someone test positive.
I'm even thinking about, people that travel between schools.
Oh, well, that would definitely go into the factoring for sure.
Yeah. So I have just a couple of questions and comments.
I'm sorry, before we move on for this topic, I just have one other question. You said that somebody who tests positive, they have to be 10 days from symptom and then 24 hours fever free. They do not need to show a negative COVID test because there have been lots of people, I've known some personally, who have had COVID for much longer than 14 days. They've had them for several months.
Yeah.
So we're not requiring a negative COVID test.
That is not what the CDC is recommending. Just let me double check my
Well,
notes.
I have read some information on that as well, that sometimes those repeated positive tests is your body shedding the virus.
Now, some people have had it for a long time.
Yeah.
What
Some
I
people
would
have been
say
sick
is,
for months too, but I'm talking about the non-symptom.
Yeah.
once your symptoms are gone.
Yeah. I'm gonna firm up that answer, but based on my experience with Camden County Health Department and asking about this issue, I do not believe a negative COVID test is required by them. If as a district we wanted to make that a part of our procedure, we certainly can do more. Mr. Attorney says yes, we can do
We have
more.
every right to be more stringent than recommended. These are minimum required standards.
But the only thing I would say, Howard, that no matter what we do, it has to be uniform across the district.
Correct.
Because it can't be a pick and choose.
Of course not.
I mean, if we decide to notify everybody in the classroom, then No matter what happens, we have to notify every single time.
Yes. we would-
Absolutely. The last thing we want to do is have anybody suggest that we treated one
Right.
concerned person different than another.
Exactly.
Are you good? Oh, no, good. Dr. Gentile, I have a couple of questions. Back to the survey.
Thank you.
David.
I'm sorry, I wanted to help me clarify, we had the guidance on this. And it does say a negative test is not necessary to return to school. CDS follows the CDC guidelines, which provides that persons with COVID-19 who have symptoms and were directed to care for themselves at home may discontinue isolation under the following conditions. At least 10 days have passed since symptoms and onset. At least 24 hours have passed since the resolution of fever without the use of fever-reducing medications and other symptoms have improved. Again, so, thank you.
Wow.
We're good on time. Sorry for interrupting. Can we, as a board, agree tonight that that's something we should include in this, as we're updating this plan? Can we?
A return to include a negative test.
Yeah.
Well, you can definitely, as a board, if I get the sense that that's what is the board's overall desire, yeah, we can have the plan update reflect that. That's the point of the work session, right? So
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
No, it's a good idea to have that.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
It's better to err to the side of greater caution.
Again, I have no issue doing more. So.
And I could see multiple notices going out. So for example, in your example with a teacher, irregardless of whatever the county says,
Right.
we send a notification to that classroom.
Right.
Right. But then we may say an overall one to the whole district, but say, but we need to be a little specific that it occurred at this school. And I don't know what the HIPAA rules are as far as we disclose it, how you disclose it, but you want, maybe the notice would just say that the teacher and the classroom have been notified, but we are making the rest of the district aware of what has happened.
So that certainly
That should cover that.
sounds great.
Dr. Gentile, back to the survey that we sent to the families. What you mentioned that 55% of folks chose hybrid, 45% chose remote. What percentage of families actually responded?
It was, my last look, 2,600 plus.
So 2,800 plus, and we're a little bit over 2,900 in the district. So I'm close to everybody.
It's pretty
That's
good.
pretty.
And the way we're doing it is in addition to the survey that was sent, which was really a registration for selection, we have followed up to make sure that we have a selection for every single student before the start of the year. So that's why when I told you that information is as up to date as possible, that includes an email from someone today saying, I would like to move from full remote to hybrid, and I've had from hybrid to remote today. So
However,
then I mentioned, I'll make sure I forward that. It gets updated in the database so that we have it.
I, as a mom of 3, had to fill that form out 3 times.
Okay, we did have some duplications that we
No, I was asked to fill it out for Zoe for signing the roll.
Every child, yes.
Okay, so you
it's not
counted.
by family, it's the
That's just
percentage
one
of students.
Yeah.
There
We
was-
were concerned that if we did it simply by family, it would, different children in the same family may need different things, which we have had, so.
So we have around 3,000 families, right? Or, sorry, 3,000 students. Assuming families are going to choose the same thing for their, I guess that would be the same thing. So we got about a 90.
Right. And we're gonna push to try to get all 3,000. Obviously, whatever our current population is, we want a choice for everybody. And we will have it. It's just keep repeating the process until we can account for every single student. And they're about, what was it, about a little under 2% have elected to homeschool or private school, primarily in the kindergarten.
We have about 50 this year.
So here's one of my other concerns that I have been thinking a lot about. As a former teacher, I think about just having my kids in front of me with a task and differentiating and making sure not just the squeaky wheels gets grease. I really worry about a teacher teaching with the kids in their, with the kids in front of them, and then also having to engage with the kids that are remote. So I worry about that kind of flip-flopping. And I had a conversation with Dr. Young probably a month ago when we were doing our individual groups, and asked specifically, what's the kind of PD that our teachers are engaged with to support that remote learning. It sounds like we're really focusing on the Google Classroom and the Google platform in terms of PD right now. I know we have fabulous teachers. I think it's going to be a real challenge to be able to flip-flop, like focusing on these kids and also engaging your remote learners. How can you address that?
Sure. We have a number of PDs, training sessions planned for the beginning of the year. And then as we go throughout the year, we're going to keep on giving teachers support as they try to manage this. So the first thing is that teachers, a lot of teachers, not everybody, but a lot of teachers voluntarily participated in Google Classroom training this summer. And so they took advanced classes to get certified, and actually Bruce probably has numbers on that. And then when we start the school year, the focus will be on those first 2 days of school. We're going to focus on the Clear Touch board and how to utilize that and how to manage, using your laptop to project yourself and then seeing the kids on that Clear Touch board in front of the classroom. And how are you going to manage that and just the logistics of operating the whole system. So that will happen the first 2 days, along with training on, procedures related to safety and security of the kids coming back to school. Then after that, the third week of September, the teachers in grades 2 to 5 are going to get training for MyReady, which is our testing platform. Yes, and then also we purchased the instruction component to that. And so they're going to be trained on that. And a big piece of what iReady is providing for us with the instruction component is a differentiated approach to supporting kids who are in school and who are remote. And they have a whole program. So that training will be given to those teachers. Our first grade teachers will have access to that program, but they don't want to necessarily get started with that in the beginning of the year. It just takes them more time because they're smaller, obviously. And so we will turnkey that training to our first grade teachers. And then, actually wrote all this down, so I just check my notes. We also are going to do training before the school year starts for parents and for students. And this doesn't necessarily answer your question about instruction, but we're going to bring in the Center for Emotional Health to do our workshops at night for parents and for our staff, just to talk about anxiety related to coming back to school and how do you support your child emotionally and socially during this pandemic, whether they're in school or whether they're remote. So that's going to be the start, and that's going to be a lot for them. But then as we move throughout the year, we'll be talking more about techniques to manage the kids that are home and the kids that are with you. The good news is that there will be very few kids that are with us in the beginning of the year. And so it's going to give the teachers time with the shortened school day, and they'll have time in the afternoon for PD and for training to get them acclimated and used to both approach. And then, I think if things go well, there'll probably be more parents that want their kids to come. I think some people are waiting to see how that plays out. So the good news is less kids with us, so we get time to figure it out, and then as more come, we'll be better prepared.
Well, it's not less kids. I mean, we still have the same amount of kids, but it's just less kids sitting in front of us.
Right.
The setup to, and sort of the design of how we're doing it with the laptop, presenting Clear Touch, that was designed by some of our teachers. Like that, this was not something that we dreamed up we worked with teachers to say, what's feasible? How can we do this? And then when I saw demonstrations of it, I'm not going to say that it's going to be easy, but we have the best staff around. I know that they can do it. It is going to be different. Managing 24 students in a classroom, right, is difficult, but they do it. And I'm sure you did it too as a classroom teacher. I know I did it. You learn how to adapt and strategies to do that. You can't prepare necessarily for a thing without doing it. I'm sorry, until you have your 11 kids that are on remote and your 10 kids in your classroom, and until you can create that opening week worth of procedures that you always do. As an opening teacher, you always spend time in the beginning front loading your procedures, your expectations. This is how we do things in the class. This is what you do when you have a question. This is what you do when your question is not being recognized and you're frustrated. This is what you do when you need to take a bathroom break, whether you're at home or in the classroom. Like, they're the procedural things that the teachers are going to train their students how to do. It's going to take time and practice and repetition.
Yeah.
But I think based on what I saw, it's possible. Now that the Google Classroom is our platform, that's how we're going to be able to connect to the kids at home and to the kids in the classroom. It's going to be our workflow tool, but it's certainly not going to be the only thing that's happening in terms of learning. It's going to be the way that we are communicating to get the kids thinking, critically thinking, problem solving, collaborating. Again, not going to be easy, but I'm confident our staff is going to excel at it. And the ones that I've talked to this summer about it are excited to try it and learn and do it.
Yes, so thanks. I think that just through professional development, I know Dr. Gentile said, sometimes you just have to jump in and you figure out the bumps and wait. I think through professional development though, you learn best strategies, you learn best practices. And as somebody who's in ed tech, you don't want the technology to be the thing you're focused on. You want the technology to be in the background and you're focused on only the instruction. And so that's what I want our teachers to be armed with. 100%.
When you saw the demonstration, did you see it from both the remote perspective and the in-classroom perspective? And did you see a differential between your ability to engage and learn?
I think the answer is yes. I saw both sides of it and have seen both sides of it. And just also in addition to just our meetings and the way we have to all interact and my administrative meetings, that you get used to that, the technology as the tool. In terms of the difference in the classroom demo, if you're in the classroom, obviously you raise your hand, it's a little easier to be seen. The way that the person did the demo is that if you're at home, you would put in a chat that I have a question, and they would see that pop up. That alerts them as one of the things that they have to monitor in addition to watching the class. They watch their chat, and when it pops up, they would address the student. From the remote side, sometimes they're looking right at the computer when you put your question in, and you get to ask it right away or comment right away. Sometimes you have to wait. So I think it's a fair mix, whether you're in class or at home. When you need to respond, you may have to wait a little bit. But I think that's pretty typical for any classroom setting. There's a raising of hands. Please wait until we're done. I always have those students in my class that have a question or comment. They're just eager to participate. So there is wait time that they're going to have to do.
Can I just mention that this summer we operated our summer literacy and math camps, and the guidance from that was that you had to be 100% live with your students during that time frame. And so I was very concerned about our kindergarten students being live with their teachers for an hour for literacy and then an hour for math. And so initially I said to them, do the best you can. If you can't keep them all on for the hour, and you have to cut it short, or, you know, you have to give them breaks, or maybe you have to break them into 2 groups, whatever the case may be, that's fine, just let me know. And they all came back and said, the kids are hanging in there, they stay the whole hour, we're having a great time, it's been wonderful. I went into several of the Google Meets, I went into a first grade class, and to your point, it was very funny because I was asking them questions, and none of them were responding, and so the teacher said, but they know that you have to call their name in order to get them to give you feedback, so that everybody's not talking at the same time, and you know, the microphone, how to work that and that kind of thing. So the teachers were awesome with it. Their instruction from spring to what they did with the kids in the summer was 100% different, and it was really successful. I did not hear one negative parent complaint, student, teacher complaint. It was really good.
But Dr. Young, what you're talking about is they were all on remote.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
So I get what
Yeah.
you're saying, but I
Yeah.
feel like better about the kids that are remote, coming into the classroom, and the teacher being able to know, you know, they're gonna have to gauge, they're gonna have to use their professional judgment. All classes are different, all makeups are different, all ages are different, what they need, their needs are. So the teachers are gonna have to gauge, you know, how long can they stay engaged? How long do I need to give them breaks? What do I need to do so that they get some independent work? How do I do that small group? It's a lot to manage, but a normal classroom is a lot to manage. And so we know also that, especially with the little ones, the parent partnership is going to be huge. And so we're going to make sure that we communicate even more frequently with our parents, and we survey them and say, what are you doing? Are you working while your kids are on the computer remotely, or are you able to help them? You know, what supports do we need to put in place? Do we need to bring in the basic skills teacher to give some extra supports at a different time because the child can't engage? There's going to be a whole lot of fact finding, and the teachers they're experts at that. They do it all the time when they're in the classroom. It's just going to look different with half of the kids home and half of the kids in school.
I have a bunch of questions. Go ahead, Bruce.
Okay. I know there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, so we'll talk your level, the administration in this building, you get together and you've developed what you envision to happen. Is that being disseminated well enough? Like, are the principals now involved with everything you're doing? Are they then disseminating to the teachers? Has all this been done yet, or has it not been done and we're just hoping they get it?
Yeah, no, the plan's been given to the principals. We've been discussing every little thing that we can think of. I do have a plan that I'm almost finished with that is here. And I will be sharing this with all of our staff members and with administration as soon as it's complete, but it's a full guide that's based on values that we hold for quality instruction. And we kind of talked about those values at our curriculum instruction committee meetings. And so I have a guide that is going to go out. It's just almost done.
Principals, though, I met with them again today, only, you know, it was a brief meeting just for the briefing, but we've been keeping them sort of up to date on the big picture plan. They've had the plan in its, you know, tentative form, and their direction was provide their building level procedures to deploy the plan. As far as the instruction component, they're aware of it. It's going to be train the staff now, make the expectations known, and then our observations this year are going to be done completely differently. We'll have to do a mixture of, you know, in-class observations, as well as dropping in through the Google Meet, you know, to just say, I want to see how the class is going and how it's going from the student's perspective. So from our desk, we'll be doing some of those observations as well. But that's all part of the plan to increase the fidelity across the district.
You know, because I sit here, I listen to you, you're very confident in what we have, which is great. But that confidence needs to, and no disrespect to teachers, but it needs to go downhill and it needs to get to everybody. So at the end, our teachers are as confident as you are that they're well informed. And the only link between, quite frankly, you and the teachers would be the principals. So, all right, that's great.
So yeah, I have a bunch of additional questions. I want to go back to the HVAC system, which I know that we've talked about, but I had another question. So my child has severe allergies, and I know that we've had air quality issues in the past. This is more directed at Clark, if you could give me some information. I know that we've made some accommodations for students with allergies and pulmonary issues, things like we'll do mold testing and air quality tests in the classrooms to determine whether it's up to the standard that's necessary for those particular students. Have we ever received those tests back that have failed, either for air quality or for mold, for instance?
Did you say that failed?
Yeah, that have failed the test and we haven't met the standard, and then we have had some sort of a mitigation plan in place to remediate those particular issues, and have you, I'm assuming, I know that we have, so do you think that compounds this issue with the ventilation and spread of virus, et cetera, given kind of our historical past in this area?
Well, there's no set standard. Everybody has different sensitivities to environments, like you said, your child. Our industrial hygienist comes in, we have concern. Every August, we bring them in, we randomly test different rooms. They might find recommendations, clean this, clean that, registers, that type of thing. You need a lot of moisture for a long period of time to have mold. And, we have all new roofs, we're brick constructed, carpet's an issue. But if we keep the moisture out of buildings, we're usually pretty good. Keep the humidity out, that type of thing. The baseline, when he comes in and tests it, he uses the outdoor air as a baseline. And a lot of times we're favorable. We're actually better than the outside air, which is really good. I mean, I have plenty of reports from our industrial hygienist. But can I say we always have a perfect bill of health? No. Have we ever had any major issues with mold? No, we haven't.
So I have a question. Doesn't the UV light also help kill mold? Because I
Yes,
don't have that. in
yeah,
my
we
HVAC
discussed that with the Buildings and Grounds Committee. Like, after this is all said and gone, one of our other biggest concerns, the staff came back in September, was that I felt good if I came in my classroom. And right away, we test the rooms, if there's an issue, we correct it. But, yeah, after this COVID, it's all well and good. The viruses, it takes care of the mold, so we'll get some longevity out of this UV lighting. Will serve other purposes.
So this is like two questions. We talked about the snack time, and we talked about the class time for subjects is going to be a little bit shortened because we've shortened the day, obviously. So I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to prioritize the lesson, what we're teaching our students when they're getting a snack time. The snack time is going to be compounded because remember, they have to wash their hands first, they have to clean their desk, then they get to eat, then they wash their hands again and clean their desk. So that's a long period of time that we're taking away from instructional time because they are moving about. Same thing when they go to the bathroom, it's going to be a longer, we have to get them in good hygienic habits to wash their hands for the right amount of time after they touched a lot of surfaces, et cetera. It's going to be the same thing if they engage in any type of interactive activity. We're going to have to clean surfaces because we can't expect that custodial staff to come in and do this. It's going to have to be a joint effort of all the people in the classroom. So are we still going to have things like phys ed and library and music, or are we only prioritizing math, science, history? Like, how have we thought about what the curriculum is going to look like, and are we giving enough time to get through all the things that we need to get through to get to the end of the year so that our students are meeting the standards that they need to meet?
So for the elementary kids, they will get their hour and 20 minutes of reading and language. So that's the standard that we've always had, 120 minutes of reading and language instruction. 60 minutes of math, that's also been the standard. They will get 40 minutes of science and social studies. So there's a little autonomy with the science and social studies. Some grade levels choose to do a whole unit of a science staff or science unit, and then switch over to social studies for a whole unit. Some want to do both at the same time, there's some autonomy there. But 40 minutes for science social studies. And then 30 minutes for specials, so whatever their special is that day, PE, health, art, music, they'll get their normal health, I said health, library. So they get their normal special for 30 minutes, which is shorter than normal, but it's still a good amount of time. And then that leaves 20 minutes for what you discussed, snack, hand washing, transitions, that kind of thing. So they're going to get the bulk of their academics in the schedule that we have provided for the early dismissal. So 8:55 to 1:25. At the middle school, they'll go throughout their day and they'll have 30-minute classes and they'll hit all their subjects. And then during that time when it usually would be a lunch period, will be their snack time and kind of like a break for them to, go to the bathroom, do those kind of things.
And again, just real quick, I'm trying to really stress that the early dismissal schedule is not our long-term solution. I hope to be able to transition into our full day and add those, the 2 hours back to the school day. This is a temporary starting point that I'd like to start from. We can, if things go extremely well that first week and, it just from monitoring it, we're able to determine by all indicators that the kids have adjusted, the staff is adjusted, we can switch to the full day, at any point. And that's my goal, would be to get back to as close to a normal routine as possible.
Totally understanding that, but this is the world we have to deal with right now.
I agree.
And I mean, I can't emphasize enough, 20 minutes is a very short amount of time to do bathroom, hand washing, cleaning desks, eating, cleaning desks again, bathroom again. I mean, my kids go to the bathroom every 5 seconds.
We're only going to have a small number of students initially, so.
And again, the 120 minutes, say, for reading and language,
Yeah.
that's our expectation for dedicating an hour and 20 minutes to reading and language, right? That doesn't mean that there won't be a bathroom break during that may have to occur. Just like the teachers deal with different disruptions as they go, some of that is going to be in that as well, and not just, okay, now we have that 20 minutes, everybody can do all those other things. It'll be embedded, which will take place throughout the day as required.
I know you said we've ordered PPE. Do we have all of it in stock to start on the first day of school? And what are we going to do when we run out? What's the plan for reordering and ensuring that we always have sufficient PPE?
As I'm going to ask Clark and Helen just to sort of pull up their list of what is, because it changes every day as we get more things in. There are the PPE for staff, the face coverings that we're providing, the different various PPE that we're providing, that has started to come in. I'm not sure if they have all of it yet, but it's coming and scheduled to be here. The thermal temperature cameras have been ordered and promised and should be here in plenty of time to get them installed before the start of the school year. Clark and Helen have a list of all the things that we agreed to order, and they're monitoring it as things come in. Sometimes there are delays that are out of our control, but then we have to come up with our contingency workaround based on that. So trying to think of an example of one of them.
Well, so can I just so obviously I work for a large pharmaceutical company, and we decided in May that we were going to send our sales force back out into the world.
Right.
And we had to go through this entire exercise. We had to order PPE for them, make sure that they had all the things that they needed. I will tell you, we ordered things 2 months ahead of time, and they were still delayed an entire month because the PPE just didn't get in.
Yep.
It's obviously something that everybody is ordering, it's obviously very in high demand, and, there's not a lot of supply. Same thing for thermal imaging, we have thermal imaging at all of our manufacturing plants, that was a long time to get in and install. So I'm just concerned about this being ready on, September 8th, 7th, 8th, whatever day we're starting, and considering it's August 13th.
Well, Monica, I agree. That goes back to the original thing, when we say, are we ready to open?
I'm confident that
It's
we are,
everything.
based on, what we ordered, what's come in, and the contingency plans. If something doesn't arrive, for whatever reason, we have a backup, a contingency plan to work around.
So what is the backup contingency?
It's okay, so let's say, for the hypothetical, the thermal imaging doesn't come in.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go to our procedure for lining kids 6 feet apart as they walk in, and we're gonna have staff with handhelds taking temperatures, doing the screenings as they come in.
And not going
And
back.
we
to-
have the handhelds, we ordered those ahead of time, so we have that equipment. So that's an example of what we want. Let's say if the face coverings that were ordered for staff weren't in, but I think they are. But if they weren't, we also have 5,000 disposable face coverings that we could give out as well. We have student face coverings that are disposable for any students who don't have them. If, for instance, let's say one of the harder ones has been the UV ventilation sanitation, the UV sanitation system. Even though we were at the lead in the front when we ordered it, it's still ordered and coming. If that's delayed, we have the portable remote UV sanitation tools that'll be available to us by the company as a backup.
Those are the drop down ones that we're talking about, that clean within the room,
Right,
not the filter.
So we have we have the filter, those devices we ordered and have arrived and are being put in. The UV system for the classroom, the permanent fixtures are still ordered and arriving. There was a delay from initial, because it was supposed to already be in. There's a delay. In speaking with the company, told them that that's not acceptable. They are providing us with the mobile portable units to be able to use at each facility if that doesn't happen. So if those permanent ones aren't installed and ready, we will have portable ones as backup. And we'll be able to use those in each classroom throughout the cleaning process.
But we'll have staff that will be able to walk the portable unit from classroom to classroom to classroom. Okay.
Clark has a whole whiteboard of all the things that were ordered, plus we also shared this list with everybody. So like everything on the list that we shared recently, we submitted to FEMA, and this is what we've ordered. But then he has a separate whiteboard that he keeps where he tracks when it's coming in. So Clark, you can back me up on this. But I have that, I guess the adult disposable masks are received, the staff shields have received, 750 staff shields have been received. Child shields, we received 50 of the 200 that we ordered, but everything needed those as well. 40 cases of gallon hand sanitizer. Do you want to add anything else to that?
Hand sanitizing stations, we bought the freestanding hands-free. We actually got 50 additional stations we're adding throughout the buildings. Pretty much going to have them in every hallway. Or pedal, gallon jug, hand sanitizer. We're adding them in different places. Bathrooms, we're going forward with touchless faucets. Student restrooms.
Have those been installed?
Excuse me?
They've been received and installed?
Crescents is done, giving one at this point. We're on hold with the next school until we receive more of the product. And then we'll move on to our different schools. Trying to alleviate as many touch points as we can, with the bathroom fixtures, that type of thing.
So I know that we've talked a little bit about the teachers requesting reasonable accommodations, and I had asked about this a couple of weeks ago in one of our subcommittees, but I want to get into it a little bit more. Do we have a hard and fast number of how many teachers are not going to come in, one an accommodation to work remote 100%? Do we have a list of how we plan on putting subs in for the live portion of the class, or what we're doing in those instances. And what are we gonna do in the event that there are no more, I know we use ESS and they're supplying our subs, but have we spoken to them about what type of staffing that they have? Can they supply all of the staff numbers that we need? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we'll both take a little bit of this. Let me start with the initial, as we're handling personnel issues, I want to be real careful in terms of what I say and what I don't say, just to make sure I don't give away confidentiality. We have had, as I said, about 26 staff members in writing indicate a request for a meeting to discuss accommodations. Those accommodations, once we meet with them, get the necessary documentation, consult with our legal and those sorts of things, we have worked out our contingency personnel plan with the worst case scenario in play. So if all of them had to either go on a leave because they can't come in, but full remote for them is not an option, we just went from that point down. If they can't come in, we've worked through a backup personnel contingency plan to cover their responsibilities.
What is that plan?
Well, it includes moving staff members from certain assignments that they're in. And I don't, again, want to give away too many different things to cause a panic, but we may have to reassign people in the last minute to cover certain things. I'll give you, here's a good hypothetical. Let's say we have a second grade teacher who has currently 24 students assigned and is going to be critical to the hybrid model of having students in and at home, and they can't come in for whatever reason, they're on leave. We are going to take one of our basic skills teachers and move them to have them cover that first grade class. If they have to be certified, qualified, move them in, then the basic skills instruction would have to be done by potentially the staff member who's on now full remote, because we could have them meet with students individually on a Google Meet to interact with if it's age appropriate, if that's possible. So that's what we're looking at. We've taken also a look at all of our special areas, all the other areas, art, phys ed. We have a list of those that are certified to do additional assignments in that. That would be another step in the contingency plan. That would be a further worst case scenario to have to then say, we're not going to be able to do phys ed currently this way. We're going to have to assign that person to now be in charge of the classroom. So we have plans to provide a substitute for that current list of about 26. In addition, we've talked to our sub-provider. We've had professional development with their substitutes to front load an expectation that they're going to work with us. We've asked them to double the number of substitutes that are going to be assigned to us, regardless of whether there's an outage, call them building substitutes. So we're going to have additional building substitutes assigned to each location. If the number ends up being much higher, things that I can't predict, then we would have to reconsider whether or not we could open as is. But I have no information at this point that leads me to think that we can't manage what we have.
So feasibly under your contingency plan, what you're saying is, right, my son in second grade, his teacher, let's say, is one of these individuals who goes out on leave. He could be, instead of having the second grade teacher that I thought was going to be teaching my child, whether remote or hybrid, could now be the music teacher.
If they're a certified elementary teacher.
Of course, they're going to be certified, but feasibly that's.
Right, with that endorsement and experience that they've taught a classroom.
And have we discussed this with our staff, and they are amenable to this type of a situation where, you know, you're no longer teaching music, you're now teaching second grade?
Ideally, we would like to have people like where they're assigned when possible. But unfortunately, there are occasions where we have to give you an assignment that you may not like, and they're professionals, and I expect that they would do it.
Have we, I have one last question, I'm sorry. Have we contemplated any, so obviously, I mean, I've already expressed that my preference at this point in time is to be remote. In an instance like that, have we contemplated any type of a childcare situation where we would come up with a plan, to the extent we went full remote, to assist parents who, because I know that that's a chief concern for a lot of parents. Have we looked at different scenarios or contemplated a situation where we may be able to accommodate some childcare requests or something to alleviate the burden that we would maybe impose upon parents who went full remote?
Like leveraging CER or something?
We've explored various potential options with CER Director Mike Redfern. In addition, I have also been consulting with Eastern Superintendent and the sending district superintendents from this area. We've done different potentials if the state were to mandate full remote. We've discussed possibly leveraging different buildings and sites and personnel to do additional childcare. Again, nothing in a firm, firm concrete way, but there are different ideas that have been discussed and considered and could be further developed.
And one last, I'm sorry, I've monopolized a ton of time. So again, I have a lot of concern about this option for parents to switch at any point of time.
Yeah.
And mainly, one of the concerns is it will increase traffic on any given day. We're going to have more children perhaps in a CER or a KCER on any given day, to the extent we won't be able to gauge who's going to be in and who's going to be out on a specific day. And same thing, it actually impacts our crossing guards and things that we have to coordinate now in the township because we don't have that control over them. Do we have a plan in place in order to ensure traffic lights and traffic and grids and all that stuff can be changed at any moment, depending upon it, since we're giving parents the option to switch at a whim, whether they're going hybrid or remote?
Good question. I have been consulting with Chief Voorhees and the police department regarding crossing guard needs, different traffic possibilities and needs, and yes, we are confident that we are going to be prepared for that. With regard to parent choice, primarily the biggest choice that I want to make sure we are able to do quickly is from a parent and student who are selected to do hybrid in-person learning. They send their child in, and for whatever reason, they feel that's a bad choice. Okay? Again, remember now, each child is going to be assigned to that class and included in the number of students. Regardless of whether they're sitting there or at home, they're accounted for that teacher. We're going to give them the assignment and number of students we think is appropriate. So they're in this unit, but they're currently coming in 2 days a week. I felt it was a priority to be able to say to the parent who says, I'm not comfortable anymore sending my child in, I want to be able to go to full remote. That's what we can do instantly. That's no problem. The parent who selects full remote now waits until school opens, realizes that it's going well, and they're now something changed and they're confident. They can request at that point that their child be added to the hybrid. And then we would talk to the teacher, give them, we'd give them notice. It wouldn't be as instant as going full remote. I thought about, some of your comments about that, and you're right. We wouldn't want it to go, today Johnny is remote, and tomorrow it would be his first, hybrid in-person day, and oh, by the way, we send the teacher an email saying they're coming. Now, we would notify them. It may be that they don't come in until the next cycle, that kind of thing. And not by cycle, I mean the next opportunity to come in for in-person. We would make sure that the teacher was comfortable, parent was comfortable.
It's just not a whole marking period like originally.
Right. Originally, I wanted the commitment for the full marking period, and I felt that obviously that would be easiest for us to manage,
Right.
but not necessarily what was best for kids.
Is it possible that, people plan on being remote and they want to come into the classroom, but because of spacing issues and the number of students in there, they may not be able to be accommodated?
Now, that was one of our top priorities, was to make sure that if somebody changed their mind, they would have a seat available and assigned to them.
David, can you just address the transportation? Like, I'm sure you spoke to the bus company, so.
Transportation. Yes, transportation, again, was one of those areas where the guidance changed mid-swing. And originally, they projected and told us we could have one student per seat wearing a face covering. They changed that guidance. They made it one student per row, unless it's a family, siblings, face coverings. And Helen could talk more about the specific details, but we have been in discussion with the transportation company. We have gotten copies of their plan for cleaning, for their protocols for managing students entering and getting off the bus. So we are working with them in our.
Just out of curiosity, how many students can fit go on a bus?
11.
11 students on a bus?
It's a 54 passenger bus, but the way it's configured now is 11 students. Now, if you have a family, let's say there's 3 kids in your family and they're all going the same, they could sit in a seat together. So you could have more than 11 if there's families on that bus. Otherwise, 1 per row, and there's 11 rows on a bus.
It's really a
Add what to the list?
The fact that typically we pay for whatever, $10,000, I'm making this up, $10,000 for a bus for 11 kids.
I don't think so.
Are we going to have to increase the number of buses?
No,
change our.
no, actually, I think it'll work out fine. We found out with the FEMA submission that anything that related to students, they would not cover. So like student masks, they won't cover. Because that you can put in the CARES grant. But our CARES grant, which was approved, paid for our summer program. So we have to pay for the masks. But anyway, FEMA is covering a lot anyway. So this is the way the transportation is working. On the checklist, the New Jersey checklist, it says require students to wear face coverings if the student can do so, while providing accommodations as appropriate for young students or students with disabilities. Maintain social distancing practices on buses to the maximum extent practicable. Adopt best practices for cleaning and disinfecting school buses and other transport vehicles. So we feel that we meet all those. And what we're doing is, Diane Turner just retired on July 31st, and we have a new transportation coordinator, but they worked together for 2 months. And they wrote all the routes as if all the students were going on a normal basis. And so all the kids are assigned to buses like they normally would be. And then Diane and Dave sent out the surveys to ask people, are you going to use the bus service or are you going to transfer your child? So we got that, and when you do a Google form, create the spreadsheet. So now the spreadsheets are getting sent to our transportation department because we have our coordinator and we have another business office staff member, and they're going through the spreadsheet, identifying the students that say, yes, I want transportation, and they're putting in that spreadsheet the bus number that they've been assigned to, so we can make sure that none of the buses have more than 11 on them. Or if there's a family member, nobody say that's fine too. So they have to, it's kind of like tedious, but they're doing that. So we feel like it'll work out because you start out with everybody that's supposed to be on the bus. Then there's a lot of people that don't want transportation. Then you're splitting that into 2 different cohorts. So it really is whittling down. So that's the process we're going through.
Originally, typically, how many students go on a bus? I don't know how many.
54 is your max, well, I couldn't tell.
54?
54 is the maximum. I couldn't tell you 100% if all our buses are 54. I don't know that myself. Transportation people know that, but I don't.
I mean, it just seemed like we had such a problem with busing before, and
This past
this is
year,
gonna be easy.
well, 2019, 20 was not a bad year. 2018, 19 is when there was a shortage in the bus drivers.
Okay.
But last year, we really had a very clean start to the year. We did not have the issues that we had before. So that was a good year. We put some other routes out to bid again. Like we typically renew most of our routes, which shows we have a good relationship with the bus companies. But there were a few routes that really were not coming through that well in 18, 19, so we didn't renew them. We put them out to bid. So they were much smoother in 19, 20. The other thing that I think built a lot of really good rapport is the fact that during the shutdown from March to June, we did choose to pay our transportation companies at 100%, but they had to prove they were paying all of our drivers at 100% by giving us certified payroll. And in addition, and other districts, some did this too, they also had to transport our meals. So that worked out well, and all of our routes were renewed, with the exception of our late runs and our after school activities, which we had to go out to bid for those. So that's really a good sign, because they wanted to renew them. They can renew them at the CPI increase, which is 1.7%. If they did and they really wanted to jack the price up, they could say, we're not renewing, just go out to bid. So we have a good relationship with the transportation companies. We're hopeful that the bus drivers stuck around, because, they might say, hey, I'm just gonna go find another job, I don't know. But we're hopeful that they'll return. That we don't know either. But we're hopeful that it will all work out, just because of the whittling down, like I've said, and the personal identification of every student.
Yeah, we have no indication that they're not gonna be staffed.
Do you have a cutoff date for the transportation of the town?
Well, I think typically it's around the 18th of this month. So next week is usually when we have to get it in.
That's when you'll know when we get.
Yeah, and so we have to give the routes to the bus companies, and anybody after that, they're told, like, you put up transportation, you may need to wait for us to get it in the system. But yeah.
And are we still at the 1 mile out?
We're still doing the same that we did before.
45% of the parents said they would transfer.
Of the ones that,
One more time?
45% of the parents surveyed said they would transport their child.
Oh, really?
and that's 45% of the ones that were given transportation by the district.
And
That cuts
other
to
ones that
54 down.
are hybrid.
You just get used to it, right?
Some people
If you don't know.
answered the question that they would transport regardless of whether they pick the all remote. Like, I think they were just anticipating, like, if I had to.
I would drive them.
Right, yeah, I would drive.
I feel like there were a couple of questions in the survey that if you chose all remote, you were still forced to answer a couple of questions that
Didn't apply.
referenced you coming to school. So
That was just so that they still have the numbers just in case, if you change your mind.
it might have been
Well, we even
transportation.
had some people answer that they wanted transportation, but they're walkers, so. we're like,
Oh, yeah, that's true, right.
Sorry. Yeah, walkers.
So at this point, Donna, sorry, just two other little questions. They're minor, they should take a second. But when you were listing the PPE, you didn't talk about wipes and sanitation. Are the kids supposed to be, I'm assuming that the children are going to have to wipe down their desks that they're sitting at. Are we providing Clorox wipes or some type of wipe for them, or they have
Our
to?
goal is to have wipes and hand sanitizer at every teacher's desk if they come back, along with a package of cloth face covering. They come in a pack of 3 and a shield. That will be on each teacher's desk with every two.
So that's enough for the students to then grab a wipe and wipe their desk off. And then final question, I promise. I know we're doing the water, we're disabling the water fountain ability, and you have to have a water bottle. What for the children who can't afford a water bottle? Are we supplying water bottles?
Yes, if any student requires a water bottle, we will provide them.
Do we have a supply for
We're
water
gonna
bottles?
order water bottles tonight, but yeah.
Just lost 18 of them right here.
Now, they can't refill those.
Yeah, they're not. Oh, they are?
Yeah, we need to
Someone
have
else
those
has.
wipes for this-
That's one
that
question.
water
Yes,
bottle.
I'm sorry.
Well, how are we handling special needs? Because that's a lot different.
It's a good question. So when our special needs parents contact us and regardless of hybrid, remote. We contact them, we put them in contact with their case manager, who works closely with case manager, Dr. Hill. In many circumstances, they're getting additional supports. Some of that may include, in addition to say, coming in for the 2 days of in-person, they're getting to come in for the full 4 days to get additional in-person support, depending on their disability. Obviously, we have to limit that to our students that most require that. If that isn't, say, maybe that's not the accommodation, in addition to their 2 days, maybe they have a staff member coming into the home on the remote days for an hour or two to try to help support them. So I think I want to acknowledge, Dr. Hill and her special education department has really been working hard to try to do the, almost the impossible in a way, because special needs students are in our school and really require a lot of care. And trying to simulate that during this pandemic has been difficult, but they've made several improvements that I think are going to really help our students going forward.
What's happening with kindergarten?
Okay, so kindergarten, I'll let her talk about the schedule a bit, but we're running our kindergarten the way we normally would run it, except the schedule had to change slightly. We're still going to have kindergarten, CDR, KCDR for those that need it.
Right, so it's 2 hours for the kids in the morning session and the afternoon session, will be 2
And
hours.
what was it before?
Well, on an early dismissal day, the kids would come in and there would be like a 45-minute overlap with the AM kids and the PM kids coming together, so we couldn't do that anymore. But on a typical day, the kids come at 8:55 and they leave at 11:25. Now they're coming at 8:55 and leaving at 10:55. That's the morning side. The afternoon would have been 12:45 to 3:25. Now they're coming 11:25.
Is that still AB?
Correct.
So it'd be Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday? So the kindergarten's 2 days a week.
2 days.
2 days in person.
5 days, but
2
the
days.
other days in. The
No.
other days are remote.
Yeah, I'm not talking about remote. They're in school 2 days.
2 days, yes. I'm sorry, I thought you said 3 or something.
Pardon?
So I thought you said 3.
Oh.
3 days. No, 2 days.
Right.
And then preschool, the same thing. We're going to operate on a similar schedule.
I'm sorry, what's the afternoon hours? You said 11:25 to 1:25 or 12:25 to 2:25?
11:25 to 1:25. Yeah. We'll move to audience participation. Good.
So if you want to tell them their name.
Yeah. So at this time, when anyone from the public who wishes to speak to the board may do so, please state your name, address, phone number for the record. The board will hear your concerns. The board will not take action this evening. Please note this is not a question and answer session. You will be notified at a later time by letter or email with any responses. And everyone that wants to speak is limited to 3 minutes.
If they put their name in the chat, that'll start the queue for the line to speak.
So please put your name in the chat if you would like to speak.
And then Mayor Chetta is first.
Okay, Mayor Chetta? Mayor Chetta, if you would like to speak?
Can they hear you?
Are we off mute?
How about now?
Ask if anybody can hear you.
They can hear us.
Mayor Chetta, you're first.
She's got it.
We got plenty of room in Zoom.
Okay, who's next?
Next would be Dana Carson.
Dana Carson, if you would like to speak?
I'm trying to do. Hi, my name is Dana Carson. Do I have to state my address? Is that what you said?
Name and address, please, yes.
My name is Dana Carson. I live at 1308 Pine Avenue in Voorhees. My question is with the ClearPoint system, I see that has capability to have video conferencing in. And the last Board of Ed meeting, I asked if the teachers were going to be recorded and if the class was going to be recorded. And I was wondering if they were using that technology for the ClearPoint, the video conferencing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we'll get back to you because this is just comments at this time.
Next, you want to, Michelle Nocita.
Michelle Nocito, if you would like to speak.
Hi, I'm Michelle Nocito, 38 Simsbury Drive. I have two questions that I just wanted to have as follow-up, and I apologize because I kept getting kicked off the Zoom, so I didn't hear all the answers to some of the things that were asked. Regarding the ventilation, I still have concerns. I did email the superintendent and asked if the systems were cleaned, and he answered yes. And then I know that the question was asked again this evening. I'm just unclear if you could just do some follow-up for me. Every year, my daughter has significant allergies and asthma, so her classrooms are tested. I know for a fact in the past I've received air quality reports where there were issues with the ventilation systems and they did have to be cleaned. And I believe in one instance, even in Hamilton, the carpets had to be replaced in her classroom because of mold. So I just wanted to see if we could get a follow-up. I usually get air quality reports before school starts for all of her classrooms. I haven't received anything yet this year, so I just wanted to make sure that for the air quality that they were indeed tested. And I just had a difference of opinion with Clark's statement that there's never been an issue with our systems. And then just my other question was from a staffing perspective, for teachers who have children in other districts that won't be opening, they're doing all virtual, how does that impact us for them? Because it's my understanding that they have an additional 10 weeks under the Federal Families First Coronavirus Act, and are we going to be short-staffed?
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Anthony Clark.
Anthony Clark.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Anthony Clark. I live at 2519 High Street, Port Norris. I am the Voorhees Township Education Association president. First of all, I want to acknowledge the board in their substantive discussion tonight. I've taken at least three pages of notes here. And I recognize the struggle that you folks have been going through in this decision. I can detect it in your voices, and I don't envy the decisions that you have to make. I understand the struggle. I also want to acknowledge the work of Dr. Gentile and his team, including Mrs. Haley and Dr. Young and Mr. Mathis, as well as our VTEA executive committee and members of our committee who have been spending pretty much their entire summer devoted to ensuring that this plan is safe. That being said, I have heard, I can detect in your voices and in your introductory comments from the board of the hesitance that's there. I mean, some of the comments that I wrote down, it's the best possible plan we could have come up with. It's as good as we could probably do here. It's the best we could do. Those types of comments don't necessarily engender confidence in many of us who are concerned about where this plan is going. We understand we live in a world of risk. But one of the things that came to mind during this discussion is the idea of where there is smoke, there is fire. If there is concern among you in your deepest heart of hearts, then you know in your mind that there's a reason to hesitate. There is a reason to pause. Our association has taken a recent poll of our membership with well over more than half of our members have responded to the poll. It's an 80-20 split. 80% of your staff at this point surveyed do not feel comfortable and do not really want to go in, do not think that, I shouldn't say do not want to go in, do not think that the schools are safe enough to go into. We all want to go in, we all want to teach, we all want to be part of supporting our students, but we also feel as though this is a risk. Our association has also voted to participate and endorse a letter by the county associations. Well over 20 county associations in Camden County have acknowledged that remote learning is the way to go initially, particularly in light of the issues as far as the HVAC. I did hear some very good conversation about HVAC, but also I'm hearing it's acceptable. It's performing to manufacturer's standards. Do these standards reflect COVID times? Do they reflect COVID? I don't know that they do. I'm not sure. However, we do ask that the board strongly consider a remote, and we will certainly share anything with you. I appreciate the time to speak.
I'm sorry, our time is up. We have to move on to the next.
I hear you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, though.
No worries.
Christina Fleury.
Christina Fleury.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Christina Fleury. I want to start by saying that I've never been more disappointed in the administration and the teachers' willingness to facilitate student achievement and growth. A Wall Street article cited research that suggested students lost 30% of their reading aptitude relative to a typical school year and 50% of their math aptitude during the school closures. The data also suggests that the impact is far more detrimental in lower elementary education. Throughout this pandemic, frontline workers and essential workers were not able to choose whether or not to show up for work. If they chose not to report to work, they would be fired. Unfortunately, our unionized teachers are proving that if they are vocal enough, they'll be protected by their contracts and we will succumb to their unyielding request. However, I would like to dismantle this misconceived notion. There was limited documentation provided to justify the move from 2 full days to 2 half days, and now there's talk of complete virtual instruction, which I strongly encourage the board to deny. The teacher does not report to work per policy number 3212. The absence shall be recorded on the employee's personnel file and included in his or her evaluation. For one excused absence in 1 year for tenured staff, the recommended disciplinary action is counseling, letter of reprimand, and automatic docking of pay at 1/200th of his or her annual salary. For 2 unexcused absences in 1 year, the recommended disciplinary action, in addition to automatic pay docking, is withholding of increment and or tenure hearing charges. Non-tenure staff may be terminated for unexcused absences. If a teacher is claiming that it's not safe to return to school and is seeking eligibility for sick leave, per policy number 3432, no day of absence shall be considered sick leave on the day in which the employee has engaged in any activity, whether it be vocational or avocational, that clearly refutes the employee's claim of disability or quarantine. Therefore, if our teachers are venturing to Walmart, Target, Home Depot, or similar big box stores, this would refute the claim and the board would be forced to take recommended disciplinary action. Over the years, women have made strides in the workplace. However, parents cannot return to work until their children return to school. We are fortunate to live in an affluent community, but there is still part of our population that cannot afford to supplement childcare to make up for the childcare gap that the district is causing. The Voorhees Township Public School Board of Education has increased total spending next year by close to 1.5%. Teacher contracts which start this school year are reported to have an average salary increase by 3.20% and 3.14% the following year. In Voorhees, the 2019 school tax was 1.473% of your assessed property value. If you are a homeowner and your taxes are not escrowed, I encourage you to withhold your school tax payment. Interest would be assessed, however, this would leave our board with no choice but to return it. We saw this happen in 2008 when the school district began to other employees.
Please, ma'am, thank you for your comments. Please remember, folks, you're making comments and you're 3-minute length. So please make sure you get everything you want to communicate to the board within your 3-minute comment. You know, answers provided tonight. Thank you.
Jamie Austin.
You're kind of everyone, right?
Yes.
Jamie Austin.
Hi. Hi, my name is Jamie Austino. I live at 167 William Feather Drive, and I would like to address the teachers union and their push to move to all virtual due to the HVAC concerns. Dr. Gentile, his colleagues, and parents have spent countless days, months putting together a hybrid plan that adheres to both the CDC guidelines and the road back to recovery. The children and the teachers will be wearing masks and following these guidelines, and it will be a safe environment. The HVAC concerns addressed here tonight are not reasons that would preclude children and teachers from going to school. The rate of infection in the state of New Jersey is as low as it could possibly get without a vaccine. We saw flares in the South with children in school because they weren't wearing masks and following these guidelines. We will be. The physicians of our country have spoken, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the CDC, and many other medical groups. They outlined the need for as much in-person education as possible for these children, even during this time. I am a parent of a third grader and a kindergarten student. I am a nurse, and my husband is a police officer. We are not alone in that we have 2 working parents that need to leave the house every day. I have no one home to watch my children during a virtual day. In addition, my third grader is hearing impaired. Virtual learning is an absolute nightmare for her. I urge you not to take away as little in-person education my children will receive. The New Jersey Constitution guarantees our children a thorough and fair education. If you move to all virtual, you'll be denying our children of that. It is time that the taxpayers stand up to the teachers union. If they don't want to work this year, take the year off and forego your pay. The physicians, nurses, police officers, grocery store workers, and so on never stopped going to work so that society did not break down. Some, including my husband, were surrounded by people with coronavirus in the very beginning. Not going to work was never an option. Society needs teachers, and I implore you to forge ahead with a hybrid plan that is safe and thoughtful. I urge everyone to remember the duty and obligation that they have to our children. It is time to go back to school. Dr. Gentile and the Voorhees Board of Education, please do what is right for our children. Horrible things will happen to these kids if they are home every day. Please do not destroy the working families of Voorhees. We are taking care of your family members when they are sick. We are making sure you have food on your tables, and we are protecting and serving your communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Nicole Nicklaw.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nicole Nicklaw. My address is 29 Redstone Ridge. And I'd like to also encourage the board to please provide our students and the constituents of and members of Voorhees and everyone here the opportunity to choose what's right for their children and to give that hybrid option to the families of our district. The plan that Dr. Gentile and everyone has put together is incredibly thorough. It's thought out. It meets CDC guidelines. It exceeds them. It exceeds guidelines provided by the health and safety standards. It's really so well thought out and provides us with an option to send our kids safely to school, as Ms. Ostino stated, so that we can go to work and fulfill our obligations to society as well. Full remote does not provide parents with a choice as mandated by our governor. And as school board members, you are elected to represent the residents of Voorhees, and like was stated, 55% of the residents chose that hybrid option, and we should be allowed to have the option to have that choice. Our virtual education thus far was really, it left a lot to be desired, and having this hybrid option is the best thing that we can have in this horrible situation. So I please ask you to give us that chance and have the hybrid situation for our kids so that they can appear in person safely by all of these standards and guidelines provided by our district. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Kim Sundstrom. Kim
Hi,
Sundstrom.
my name, I'm here.
Okay.
My name is Kim Sundstrom. I live at 84 Cornell Drive, Voorhees, New Jersey. I teach the KCER program. To back up Mrs. Nacito, what she talked about as far as the air quality in the school, in my classroom personally, my air conditioning unit repeatedly leaks and soaks the carpeting in the corner where my book corner is. The remedy to this is that they put in giant fans to dry the carpet. They've come down a few times to try and fix it. It keeps happening. We also must run a dehumidifier. Over spring break, when that humidifier is not running, I have had books ruined because they're rippled up from the moisture. I've had mold grow on toys. The HVAC system, I don't know about anyone else's classroom, but in mine is not top notch, or however it was referred to. Also referring to kindergarten, we said that we changed the program because we couldn't have that overlap. But in keeping the KCER program, and I hope you understand that me saying this is putting myself out of a job. In keeping the KCER program, we are now taking those separate cohorts from the morning class in Mrs. DeAugustine's, the morning class in Mrs. Genty's, the afternoon class in Mrs. DeAugustine's, the afternoon class in Mrs. Genty's, and we are putting them all together in my classroom. I think that's a huge mistake. Finally, I would like to say that yes, this plan has been thought out and worked on, and tremendous energy and time and resources have gone into it. Not necessarily by the people who are actually in the classroom dealing with the realities of the classroom. I'll end with one simple question, one tiny part of my day, which I cannot figure out how to do. I tie children's shoes about 25 times a day. How do I do that from 6 feet away? Do I let them walk around with untied shoes? Do I hold my breath and bend down and tie quickly, hoping they don't sneeze or cough on me as I'm doing it? And that's one minute part of my day. It looks good on paper, but in reality, it will not work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Edison Raballo.
Yes, hello, my name is Edison Roballo. I live in 304 Alpha Avenue in Voorhees. I want to support the teachers in this meeting. And I want to say a couple of things. I think, first of all, to all of you, I want to say thank you for all your work. I know that you are in a difficult position and you are doing your best. But I want to say a couple of things. The first thing is we have to stop comparing things like going to the school, like going to Walmart or going to the Home Depot is not the same at all. It's not the same. You can control people in Home Depot. And sometimes I heard the people in this meeting saying that you have all the protocols for the things that can happen. But we are humans, and we cannot control the kids, and we cannot expect the kids are going to follow all the protocols. That is, it will be ideal, but it's not going to happen. And I really believe that the best idea is to start homeschooling again. Is not, we don't like it. I don't think any teacher likes it, but it's the safest way to do it. And also, it's not that the teachers don't want to work. It's that is the safe way to work. It's not that they don't want to work. I cannot understand some people saying that they don't want to work. They want to work. I really appreciate all the work of the teachers from my kids. And I think this district has amazing teachers. My last thing, I just heard somebody saying that 80% of the teachers think that studying remote is the best thing. Now, I'm surprised sometimes. If I want to make a house, I won't ask my best friend to make a drawing and I will make that house. I will hire an engineer. I cannot understand why we cannot trust teachers. They are with our kids every single day in the schools. But now, the governor, he is not a teacher. The people, even the people who are in the Department of Education, not all of them are teachers. We need to trust our teachers in this matter. And I'm here to support our teachers. Thank you.
Your comments.
Chrysola Coco.
Hi, my name's Chrysola Coco, 206 Pelham Road South in Voorhees. First of all, I'd like to say I think Voorhees Township Public Schools have really done a phenomenal job getting thrown into this windstorm. I unfortunately got thrown into it as well, as I got furloughed from work and ended up being a full-time special ed teacher to 2 kids, which I am not qualified to do in any way, but certainly did the best I could. And I did so through today, as today was the last day of extended school year. So I am proud that they made it through. However, I can say that the online platform is not for all children. And with that being said, it really worries me that some children are going to fall further and further behind. I believe that all children are going to fall behind, but some are certainly more adapt to online learning, and I think that's beautiful and that's great. I unfortunately don't have that luxury. I also think that teachers, yes, are considered frontline workers, as a lot of our nurses and our pharmaceutical workers are, and such and such. Do I think they should deserve hazard pay and everything else on top of it? Absolutely. Can't say enough about the teachers and what they've done, whether from home or in a school capacity. So I agree that they deserve more than a pat on the back for what they have had to go through. The biggest thing is that us as parents, we're at this point, we're being given a choice that we can keep our kids home or we can send them to school, at least part-time at this point. So if you are so against it, keep your kids home. If you have the capability to do so, keep your kids home. If you are not working, keep your kids home. That is your right to do, and our district is allowing that. So, I don't understand, I guess, the hiccup with that, because you are given both of those options, which I think is great, because a lot of school systems are not giving parents that option. Lastly, I just want to say, and this might be unique to me, but probably not unique to a lot of our population in Voorhees, but there is a pretty large special ed community. And I think the entire 3-hour meeting spoke about special ed students for about 2.2 minutes. They definitely need a lot more than 2 half days a week. I'm sorry?
We have to move on to the next comment. We're limited.
No.
Denise Zeta.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Hi, okay, this is Denise today. We live at 38 Regency Drive in Voorhees. I have many concerns. I'm going to whittle them down to the most pressing. The symptom screening that the children are supposed to be getting, we're assuming parents are doing it at home, and then it's going to be, the children are supposed to be observed by teachers at school and I guess sent to the nurse. My concern is that there's going to be this reliance on temperature screenings as being incredibly useful. They kind of give a false sense of security because a lot of kids aren't going to get temps. So I guess that's the one thing I wanted to raise about that. I've mentioned to multiple people the concept of doing outdoor classrooms. And, this has been recommended by many specialists. We could do like 3 months if you have large wedding reception tents and you can have kids rotating outside so they're not indoors for large periods of the day. Definitely out there for snacks, because if they're going to be with their masks off, I don't feel like they should be in a classroom at all, because the plexiglass dividers are great for droplets, but they're not so great for aerosols. And aerosols hang in the air, and it's definitely a way that this virus gets spread. So, I would like to have the kids outdoor for classrooms, for class a lot of the day, but definitely for their snack time. As a matter of fact, I think that was even recommended by the governor today, is eating outdoors. There's a lot of concern and talk about surface cleaning, which is great, but this virus is not really spread much by fomites, which is, virus on surfaces. It's primarily a respiratory virus. It's in the air. So I have a lot of concerns about the HVAC system. the recommendations are 6 air exchanges per hour, a MERV rating of 13, HEPA filters. Are we meeting all of these requirements? And I don't know that, because all I've heard are, just vague statements about having a well-maintained HVAC system. That doesn't really assuage my sense of anxiety that the air is being cleaned enough. Again, it's primarily a respiratory virus. I would love to think kids are going to keep their masks on, but when you look around a room of all adults, you'll notice that 75% aren't wearing them correctly. So you can imagine how that's going to translate into the children, into the student population. These kids are not going to keep their masks on the way they're supposed to, above their nose all day long. We'd love to, be able to do that, but, kids aren't going to. So outdoor classrooms are the way to go, or an extremely high efficiency HVAC system while they are indoors.
I'm sorry, we have to move on.
Okay, thank you.
Next is Mayor Chetta.
Thank you. Sorry about the technology issue earlier. Like many, I have knots in my stomach for a variety of reasons as it relates to my children's education for the coming year. I thank everyone, the board, the administration, for all their efforts and dedication to the situation at hand. I want to echo some of the comments about special education, and I urge Dr. Gentile, Dr. Young, and their teams, along with the board, to make sure special education students and students with IEPs do not fall through the cracks. I am hopeful the administration and the board is equally focused on students in general education and equally on students with special education. Like my son, many students, regardless of gen ed or special ed, thrive on structure. And my son is stalled, and I'm sure many other students possibly have stalled as well due to a lack of structure. Regardless of hybrid, in-person 100%, virtual 100%, I urge that structure and leadership from the administration is given so that the teachers, regardless of how they deliver instruction, are able to, have the resources, the accommodation, support to deliver the best education possible given the circumstances. Along the same lines, students, especially special education students, be given resources, the proper equipment, accommodations, support, so that they can have a meaningful academic instruction and progress. To be totally honest, March through June, iPads, worksheets, everyone did the best they could with the situation. But now that we're a few months fast forward, I'm looking forward to a much better experience. Thank you, and I look forward to continued leadership from administration and continued guidance and input from all members of the board.
Any other comments?
And please help me if anyone will repeat, because we're going to go through once, everybody who wants to speak once, and then, okay. Joyce Morella.
Good evening. My name is Joyce Lorella, and I live in Washington Township, but I teach in Voorhees. And I would like to echo for all of the teachers that teach in Voorhees, we want to go back to school. Don't let anybody think we don't want to come back to school. We absolutely want to be there. However, the buildings are not ready. Mrs. Watson, all the questions that you raise are accurate questions. The things are not put in place that need to be put in place for your children's safety, and that is where we are concerned. The technology is not going to operate the way that the administration believes that it's going to operate. And I think that we just need more time. It's not that we want to go all remote for the year. We need more time so these buildings are 100% ready. Teachers have not been adequately trained in lots of things, Google included. I am currently Google training with 10 teachers. There was another additional training earlier in the year. I do not know how many teachers were trained in July. I don't imagine it was very many more than 10 teachers. 30 minutes also in a middle school setting is not enough to get anything done when a teacher has to move to a classroom, log in to the technology, get everyone situated, and then clean the classroom, before they leave to get ready for the next teacher to come. I encourage the board and the administration to think about block scheduling for middle school so that less students are in with each teacher and more adequate instruction happens. That is all. I thank you all for all your hard work. I know this is hard for all of us, and I appreciate you listening to my comments.
Thank you.
Adam Walstino.
Hi, good evening. Adam Olstino, 167 William Feather Drive. Most unions work to convince the world how indispensable their members are. The teachers union are doing the opposite. What the unions are proposing is no value to me and my children. I can get the same product from bureaucrats up in Trenton, creating an online test and kids watching Khan Academy. The unions believe they can hold us hostage with their threats, and they think we'll sit back and take it. Union hubris is the product of years of political bribery and monopoly. All this talk of remote public school is a sham, and parents can do better on their own. If unions are successful in their bullying, I implore the board to immediately begin layoff plans, partially defund the district, and reduce our tax burden. We can do better to educate our kids. Private schools are full day, pods are an alternative. We have other options as parents. In March, there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear. On Saturday, March 21st of this year, New Jersey ordered its lockdown. Monday morning, I got up and I went to work as normal. Was I worried? Of course I was, but I had a duty and an obligation to show up. The public was counting on me. I'm an essential employee, and so are teachers. Grocery store workers, nurses, firefighters, doctors, we've heard it. Many others all kept going to work. They understood the benefits of sacrifice and good public morale. They understood the detrimental effects of selfishness and cowardice. They did it for the greater good. Now we need our teachers to do the same and show up for work. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Alexander Bershadsky.
Hi, my name is Alexander Bershadsky, 9 Oxford Court. Many things were said today. I agree with the previous speaker very much, by the way. What I wanted to remind you what happened in spring, and maybe you even don't know, but it was traumatic actual experience for us all this teaching, remote teaching, or illusion of remote teaching that was done. And definitely, people should be given the options. And so those parents who worry about their children, they can enroll to remote, and those parents that want their children to go to the school should be given opportunity to go to the school. I can imagine, I work in private company, I can imagine going to my employee and tell him, listen, I cannot work today, I'm afraid. I will be released immediately, and rightly so. And I agree that those unions making our life miserable and using this as monopoly. This is not 3 minutes will not be enough to tell you all stories about different teachers, negative experience that I had, but it's definitely related to this union. Now, in the opening statement, guys, one of you were talking about long-term effects on the health. I thought you education experts, not health experts. So I'm very surprised that you, in your opening statement, decided to talk about this. Also, almost everyone in the opening statement said maybe not everyone will love our decision, not everyone will love our decision. So you made the decision before you came to the meeting, and this is the reason why you say this. And it seems like you don't care what we think. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Rosenstein.
Hi, I'm Marcy Rosenstein, 26 Downing Lane. It's upsetting to hear people blaming the teachers for having valid concerns. I just want to start off by saying that. I agree with that they should be involved in the process because they're the ones who we always count on to keep our kids safe. And so now they have to keep themselves safe as well. So I hope that they're being involved in the discussions. And because they do, they know their classrooms better than the board does. That said, I don't envy anyone on the board in this position. There's no good answers, unfortunately. You know, the remote learning was thrown at you and didn't go particularly well, I would say. But with all this attention to the way we're doing the scheduling and how the building is, I think there's a lot of people, myself included, who think that even if we start with the hybrid plan, we won't be able to continue that all year long. So is there as much attention being paid to if we do go full remote, are the teachers prepared for that? Are students still going to be getting a good education? Because that's really, I think, a grim reality. For some of the teachers who do have valid health concerns, who are at high risk, when do they need to tell you that they're not going to be in the classroom, and will you have enough time to make arrangements for other teachers? And will those teachers be qualified, or just part-time subs that are coming in? We're already at a disadvantage. I'm not hearing much out of the box ideas. The outdoor classes, I think, is a great one, but I'm not hearing that from the board. The block scheduling so that the class times can be longer so they can maybe learn better was another great idea. And have you considered different plans for elementary versus VMS? Because the difference between a kindergartner and an 8th grader is huge. And so they have different needs and they're able to do different things. I believe 8th graders can keep the masks on all day, 6th graders as well. So is there any sort of consideration for that? Thank you.
They're permanent.
Guys, you muted. We cannot hear you.
Susan Wanger.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak once again. I've heard some very ugly words this evening being insinuated towards our teachers, cowards, unwillingness to return to work, babysitters. I'm appalled, quite frankly, by the disrespect that I've heard from some of the participants. However, I wanted to thank all of you and apologize to those of you that applaud and appreciate the dedication, the hard work, and the commitment of the Voorhees staff. Parents have been given a choice to send or not send their children back into the classroom. Teachers have been given no choice. They are moms and dads, sons and daughters, grandparents, caregivers, and friends, just like every one of you that is in attendance tonight. Yet they have no choice. They've been trained to protect your children from an active shooter, to meet your child's social, emotional, and academic needs every day. Yet they must endanger themselves and their families when there is yet another option: full remote learning. Your teachers are essential personnel and frontline workers. For most of you, they are your heroes, your children's cheerleaders, mentors, and sometimes their daytime moms and dads. But again, their own needs, their own concerns, their own families' needs are being ignored. Teachers would love nothing more than to return to their normal classrooms that they love. For this school district, a district that I served in for 25 years, this is a moral decision. This decision has nothing to do with PPEs, thermal imaging, and HVAC systems. It has to do with the value of life. It has to do with empathy, sensitivity, love, respect, and regard for our children, our parents, and our teachers. Beyond a reasonable doubt, someone will get sick.
someone will die. It has to do with the gift of time to better ready our schools. I know many of you board members personally. I've taught your children, I've worked with members of your families, and I too have heard your uncertainty and your concerns. I have a hard time believing that any of you would be willing to make this decision for your child, your wife, or your mom that is a returning teacher. I ask each of you to go into your heart and to ask yourself honestly if you can live with this decision and its most certain consequences. Thank you.
Valerie Pena.
Hello, my name is Valerie Pena. We live at 6 Great Oak Road. Our son goes to Osage. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in the field for over 20 years. And a few things that I like to remind folks that school is not childcare. Children go to school to be educated. And as a working parent, and my husband also is a working person, I get it that this is a real issue, but school is not daycare. Additionally, this school year is not going to be normal. Sorry, I wrote, hang on one second. No matter how we slice it. Obviously, 5 days a week is out of the question. So whether if you keep your children home every day, or if your child goes to school 2 days a week for half a day with plexiglass and your kids can't be near their friends and all of the social distancing, all of these children are going to be behind in some degree socially and educationally. The sooner we all accept this, I think the better we're going to be. And lastly, as the woman had said before me, the negativity that I'm hearing towards our teachers just really, it turns my stomach. I hate it. I've had the opportunity to get to know so many of our teachers at Osage, and they are the most amazing people. They work their tails off. Even before COVID, they are just the most innovative people. And then once March hit, they just really put it into high gear. And I know over the summer, they are working so hard to prepare for the unknown of what this year is going to bring. So to hear the negativity about them being scared about what their job is going to be like, what the unknown is, it's really sickening. So thank you.
Chris Pulaski.
My name's Chris Paluzak. I live at 3 Stamford Drive. Dr. Gentile and the board, I would just like to address you with a few comments tonight. First, you've heard an awful lot of information over an awful lot of hours. I hope that you are still listening. I do want to say I do not envy you in your position. From my understanding, none of you have been trained to deal with a pandemic that we are dealing with. In saying that, you've heard a lot of information tonight. Some of it is true, some of it is misinformation, but from my observation, all of it has been brought to your attention based off of fear. The reason that happens, in my opinion, is that lack of leadership breeds fear. We need you in this time of need to provide real leadership. Voorhees is a passionate community. We have phenomenal teachers. We have a phenomenal community of workers. This decision is solely yours. So what I would like to bring to your attention is simply this. Can you live with the decision you make without blaming the governor, without blaming the state, without blaming other districts, and how you choose to move the school year forward? Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Elif Ulusal.
Hello, my name is Elif Ulusal. I live on 18 Gasa Court, Voorhees. I have a few questions. One, being a special needs parent, I am not sure if I understand it correctly, if the option of 4 days in person is offered for special needs students. My daughter is 3. She just started school in January and had to then continue in online learning starting March. And it is definitely not the best right now for her. She needs speech therapy, she needs physical therapy, and at the same time, she needs her peers around her constantly talking in English so she can learn speech more quickly. And my other question is, I thank you so much that you have put so much effort into this work. I thank our teachers that they're working so hard to adapt to the new normal. But do you consider your risks as people getting sick, or do you also consider the risks of people being out of work, trying to take care of their children at home with no jobs maybe, and with the stress of that, having some domestic violence cases increasing? So does the risk management include the risks other than getting sick with coronavirus? So now that the kids mostly will be staying home. Yes, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Naoti.
Hello. I'm having time. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry. I just want to express, I do want to say thank you to the board and everyone for doing all this research. Mr. Clark, I love what you had to say. It was very eloquent and you did raise a lot of points. And as a parent, we do have a lot of misgivings about our kids going back to school also. And we have to figure this out. And we have the option, but not everybody has the option to stay home with their kids, and not everybody has the option to send their kids to school because of health reasons. Thank you.
Michael Friedman.
Good evening, everyone. I'm on just the phone today. Sorry, you can't see my pretty face. So look, I want to thank first of all the administration for all the work you've done. This is not easy. I can't imagine it's remotely easy. So thank you for all the work that you've put in. I know I've been in touch with the board and the administration. We've got 3 special needs kids currently in Voorhees schools, and that's been a big concern of ours. So thank you for your time, for looking at all these issues. You're not going to solve every issue. You're not going to make it 100% safe, but you're doing the best you can, and you'll continue to do the best you can, I'm sure. Many of us have moved to Voorhees because of the vaunted school system and the wonderful teachers that we have here. We thank goodness every day for the wonderful teachers. But we do expect an education for the high taxes that we all pay. And that's why we're here. That's why there's 300 participants on here voicing their concerns. So thank you for keeping that in mind. What I will say is that the cost, we keep talking about costs and concerns and issues, the cost of keeping our kids out of school for maybe even as long as another year are so much greater than the infinitesimal risks to these kids, especially in the years 2 to 11. If you've looked at the research, the costs of them not having in-person learning are so much greater. Especially with special needs kids who are the group of children that can least afford not going back in person. So I just want to urge you all again to continue giving us the option of having the hybrid option. I'm thankful for at least, I wish it was longer, but thank you for at least the hybrid option. I can't imagine that anyone would vote against giving parents that option, at least. If folks are concerned, then they have that option to keep their children home. But for those of us who have dealt with the, believe me, despite all of the very best efforts of our teachers who really are wonderful, remote learning is not cutting it. So please allow us to have that option, to have our kids back in classroom with these wonderful teachers and the great work that they do. Teachers are essential. They're essential to our family. They're essential to everyone's family. So it's essential that our kids be there with them in the classroom, and certainly abiding by the guidelines that you all have worked so hard to put in place, and which I'm sure you'll continue to address as you move forward. So thank you again for your time tonight, and good luck with your decision.
Thank you.
Janine Martin.
Can you guys hear me? Yes?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Thank you. Janine Martin, 14 Redstone Ridge. First and foremost, thank you to the board. I understand and can't even imagine what you're all in as volunteers who are complete and total volunteers elected by us to take care of our kids. So thank you for that. Secondly, terribly, horribly saddened to find out that there has been no training for our teachers. It is August 13th. We have been out of school for 5 months, and our teachers have not been able to really, truly been trained. Our kids go back to school in 26 days, and those teachers have not gotten the training they need. That is pathetic in our district. Our tagline is inspire, engage, and innovate. We have done none of that for our teachers. So please let our teachers inspire each other. Let them engage each other. Let them innovate. Get them in their classrooms. Let them figure out how to set up their desks, teach their students, and get us all back to school. Please get the teachers to get involved. Use them. They are our greatest resource. I tell my kids every day, you don't know how to solve a problem? Use your resources. We are not using our resources. Use our teachers. Let them inspire, let them engage, let them innovate. The last thing I have to say is, once you do that, or even if you don't, I urge that board, I urge every single one of you to get in our schools. See if our desks are 2 meters apart. See how those kids are going to get set up. I am thrilled there's a hybrid option. I am thrilled that some of the kids will get back to school. I am thrilled that parents have the choice to keep their kids home. That is a completely personal decision. But you know what? Follow up with your tagline, inspire, engage, innovate. Get the teachers in, let them innovate, let them teach our kids. And I urge the board to get into the schools and see if the hand sanitizers have been installed. See if the UV lights have been installed. I want to know that. I'm a parent. I want to know what the MERV rating is on my HVAC system. I want to know. Get in there and please tell me. Thank you.
Erin Putman.
Hi, my name's Erin Putman, 394 Holly Road in Marlton. I've worked at Osage School as a special education teacher for 20 years. The question was raised by a few board members. Are we ready? Do your teachers feel ready and prepared to teach students in person and at home simultaneously? I can answer for myself, but I can also answer for the majority of the staff members. As Tony said, 84% of your children's teachers do not feel ready. And this is not just because of a health fear for ourselves and for our families, which should not be downplayed. It seems like we are forgetting. We are in a pandemic. And this is actually because we do not know how to do in-person instruction, given all the CDC distancing requirements that have to be in place and should be in place. We do not know how to keep a child's mask on for 4+ hours and use classroom management with students in person as well as on a screen. We have no idea how to do it. We've never touched these things. There is a small group of people who have actually touched the Clear Touch boards. The majority of us have never even seen them. Excuse me. We have not been back in our classrooms all summer. There has been virtual ESY, virtual summer camp. We have had virtual board meetings until this evening. We are collaborating with our coworkers over Google Meet and taking Google Classroom classes. I myself am taking a college class on social emotional health and distance learning so that I can be as ready as I can be. And this is all of our own volition for all of you who are talking so harshly about teachers. And I heard the word bullying being used about the union. I think you need to look at yourself. Comments are being shared everywhere that the type of learning in the hybrid setting occurring in the fall is going to be provided at a much higher caliber than in the spring. We have been told by administration that we'll be remotely teaching, but in the classroom. Don't mistake that it's going to be an enriching experience that's going to be above and beyond what remote learning could be. It can be. I am so sorry for those of you who felt that you did not have a good experience, but it can be better. I'm not saying that that's what we want to be doing forever, but it can be better. There will be no partner work, no hands-on activities, no grouping. Students will continue to be on screens all day. And using the reason that remote learning will not be as educationally sound is not a solid argument. Please remember, we don't want this to be a long-term solution. I miss my students so much. You have no idea. We want to be back. We want to be back when it is safe to return and when the in-person experience can be much closer to what it was prior to March 13th. Thank you.
Caitlin Palumbo.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Palumbo. I live at 313 Fern Drive in Marlton, and I am the art teacher at Signal Hill. I wanted to speak to the unique perspective of myself as one of the school's specialists. As the specialist, I teach every single student from 1st through 5th grade. That's over 400 children. I was told today that specialists will still be teaching your children in person. This means that I, as a teacher, will be exposed to 400 potential COVID carriers, and I will then carry that from classroom to classroom as I teach each of these individual students, which I think is a major, major concern moving forward. Additionally, I wanted to speak a little bit more about the HVAC system. I know you've probably heard a ton of this tonight, but at the end of my hallway is the staff bathrooms, and anytime that it rains at Signal Hill, the overwhelming smell of mildew that comes from the ventilation system is impossible to miss. You can smell it before you even open the door. So the repeated reports that our HVAC system is not a concern seems questionable to me. And I sincerely hope that we are going to move forward in testing this system and getting a little bit more answers. I know that in the past, teachers have actually had medical issues that are considered to be caused by this HVAC system. So it is a real concern. Additionally, just in reaction to some of the comments that have been made today, I would urge you to remember that your teachers are people. Of course, we are teachers and we love our jobs, but at the end of the day, we're people too, and we have families that we go home to. Some of us, including myself, are medically high risk, and we really just want you to keep that in mind because ultimately, we want to get back. I miss my students more than I could possibly put into words. I adore them. Art is not an easy subject to teach virtually, although I've been committed to working hard to doing it effectively. And I hope that moving forward, we can remember to use respect when speaking about our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Petamaj.
Joseph Petitamonge, 219 Homer. I wanted to thank the entire board, the entire administration, all of the staff, and the community members, regardless of their positive or negative opinions. If we go back to when this pandemic was starting, there were a lot of people who weren't very critical of it, and those who spoke out against it were pushed to the side. I actually am very grateful that there is a union that has brought up some good concerns that the board has addressed, things that they might not have thought about. But without that union, I don't think you would have that voice coming out there because you would be pushed aside. So I don't look at them as a negative, I look at them as a positive as a team member. The second part is we keep saying that children are not necessarily going to be affected. We do not know the long-term effects on children. I have actually been preparing for this since January, February. My mother teaches at Villanova, and I actually bought all my supplies back then because they were studying it over there in China. So I find it hard when people keep saying, you know, if the children are not at risk. We don't know that. The second thing I want to say is the cost of children not being there. I have a 5th grader and a 12th grader. They are prepared to miss out on some wonderful moments in their life this year, because the one thing I'm not willing to do at any cost is to have them be that one person who becomes ill or gives it to somebody that could have been prevented. So I'm going to be making the decision, personal, that my children will stay home. And I appreciate the idea that the sacrifice everyone is making, but please remember that cost. One staff, one child's death is intolerable. Thank you very much.
Sean Watson.
Yes, hi. I'd also like to follow up on some other people who have spoken tonight, that the idea that teachers are bullies is just flat ridiculous. Teachers teach because they love students. They want to be in the building too. I am actually part of the 55% who have decided to send in my my rising 2nd grader and 4th grader for the hybrid, plan. But I kind of regret it every day. And every day I'm on the verge of writing an email and switching to the other plan. The only thing that keeps me from doing it is the fact that the choice is there. And the fact that I know, as hard as the teachers will work, and they will work as hard as they can, there's no way to fully engage both in person and online equally at the same time. And if you have that option of staying home, and you can definitely take it because that is a personal decision you need to make, but the level of instruction is just going to be different. And so with the option there, yeah, I'm going to send my kids hybrid. However, I do believe that if we were to go full virtual from the beginning of the year, and teachers could focus all of their efforts on that particular model, they would be providing a much higher level of education than trying to split the difference between the two, and really not servicing anybody to the best of their ability. So the teachers are doing all they can. They worked harder than they've ever worked before, I believe, in the spring, and they're doing that now. But if you split the difference and you have them trying to do both things at the same time, it's just going to be harder for everyone. That's my opinion. Thank you for listening.
Angela Delamaris.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Angela Delamaris. I live at 48 Forest Hills Drive. I wanted to say that I appreciate the survey that went out, because I felt like the parents that had children that are going to Voorhees schools responded whether they wanted their child to be remote or to go to school. And I think that has passed now. So I understand people are talking about their child that has an issue, or whether the HVAC unit in the school is okay. I'm hoping that that parent that has that child said that they wanted their child to be remote rather than going into school. I also wanted to say something about the board and the teachers. I think someone who spoke recently said that teachers are people. And I understand that. I mean, I have a husband that lived in Pennsylvania, and I felt like I fought with him every day because the New Jersey taxes were very expensive. And one of my neighbors said to me, don't complain about the taxes, because the taxes are going for your school district. And that's why we moved to Voorhees, was because we felt that it was reasonable for their kids to go there for the school district. So I understand that teachers have their issues, but I also believe that there are a lot of other people that aren't asked whether they feel comfortable going to work. I know that you're people. I have plenty of family members that are nurses. I have family members that are doctors at major hospitals. I have family members that work at stores, that work at department stores, that own businesses, and they're dealing with kids that have COVID. Nurses, doctors, department stores, businesses. And you know what? They're not asked if they feel comfortable. But at the same time, I understand that teachers are people too. And if they don't feel comfortable, then they don't have to come to the school. But I also believe that because a portion of our taxes were for the school district, then we as parents that have children that go to Voorhees, we should not have to be required to pay for those taxes if our teachers are not going to school. Because what are they really paying for if the teachers are not doing their job? for them to be sitting there and doing remote lessons. I understand that that's difficult, but there are plenty and plenty of studies that have shown they may be getting better, but they're not what they were. And I feel like I moved to Voorhees for the school district. And if these teachers are not willing to go back to school, then I don't know why I did that. And if it was because of my taxes, then I feel like we deserve our money back or a portion of it back. Thank you.
Michael Torres.
Hello, my name is Michael Torres. I live at 20 Hazel Avenue in Voorhees. I just had a few comments to make about the reopening. First of all, with the recent comments about how people want their tax money back because of the current situation, let me remind you that we are currently in a pandemic, in case you haven't noticed, that none of us expected this to happen, and we're all trying to adapt. So thank you very much. And what I wanted to say is that even with this hybrid reopening plan, all I see is a foolish rush to reopen school just with little regard for what really matters, for what your Royal Highnesses of the board should really be striving to ensure: the health and safety of all students and staff in the school, regardless of the struggles of remote learning. Regardless of all of that, remote learning is the necessary situation to ensure all of our health. And in some cases, I have seen people saying that, yes, that teachers are suddenly lazy and they don't want to work, and that's why they're pushing for the remote learning. Let me just say, I have a friend who is a teacher. He worked extremely hard during the remote learning period, and he was extremely dedicated to his students. And that his dedications to his students, even in this period of remote learning, I saw was really. Start over. So my friend, who's a teacher, sorry, he worked really hard during the remote learning, but I think that during this hybrid period of learning, I think he would have to work even harder, be able to perform tasks that shouldn't be expected of him as a teacher. And this whole situation shouldn't be expected of anyone. The students, the teachers, to follow all the protocols. We shouldn't expect them to follow everything perfectly. So I think that for our current situation, which we are currently at 5 million cases, the best option for everyone's safety is full remote learning. Thank you.
Still on there.
Wendy, yeah.
Yep.
Hi.
Yes. I'm a teacher at Osage School, and I live at 234 Central Avenue in Woodbury Heights. We have been thrown into this situation. We have not chosen this at all. It is a difficult situation. Yes, I've heard, terrible things about teachers, but I think we've all have worked together we're trying to make it better. We want nothing more than to be together with our students, and it's a parent's choice. They have that choice whether they want to have their children. Everybody has the choice, and we have the choice, and we can come. We want nothing more than to be together with the students, and we're going to work. We're doing our hardest. We're doing the best that we can. We want nothing more to be there with them. We're learning everything. We're making everything better. We're working our hardest. We're working with the administrators. We're working with everyone to learn and to make better. We work with the parents all the time in order to make learning better with the parents. We want safety, number one, for the students. That is what we want. We want safety in the schools. We want safety for ourselves, certainly, but we want learning for our students. We want to be teachers. We want to be with them. We want learning, and that's what everybody's goal is, to be teachers, to be with the students and for them to learn. That whether it is to be remote at first so that the safety comes before, that's probably what we want that to happen first, but their learning and their health comes before anything. And I say that as I'm a parent, and my family, they all have been working and going out into the community to work this entire time. But yes, I want to come to work too, and I want the students to be safe first. That's the goal for everyone, and their learning and our safety is first. Of course, everyone should feel confident that their child is going to be healthy and learning, and that is what everyone's goal should be, whether it is virtual, whether it is in person. We wish that everybody life would be before it was this awful pandemic, and that no one was dying. People are dying. People are, it continues to grow, and we wish it would be like before, but our learning.
Okay, thank you. David Thompson. David Thompson. Okay, Christine Flory, you have an opportunity to speak again. I'll come back to Dave after. Sorry. Hold on, I'm sorry. David Thompson. Okay, back to Christine Flory.
No further comments at this time. Thank you.
Crisola Croco.
Thank you again for taking the time to listen. I think it's been really valuable to be on here for the past 4 hours, as it's nice to really hear all the different sides and situations that everyone's going through. I've heard a lot more about special ed students, which I'm so happy to hear about, because I feel like that was sort of missed in the Board of Ed discussion meeting, or only mentioned for about 2 minutes. And I can understand what teachers are going through. And some of them have spoken tonight, which have actually really mentored one of my children and have helped him grow. So they know who they are, and I'm so thankful for them. So I can understand that, this is a struggle for them. What I would like to say is, if we end up in that situation where we can't put our kids back in school, then provide the parents the support that they need to educate their children at school. So if it means that you have to send, an outside contracted, special ed aide to your home, to the parent's home, with a mask on, with social distancing in place, then do that, because that's what that kid needs to learn on a flat screen iPad. They just have a very, very hard time learning this way. And if they're not going to be able to go back into the school environment, which, I can tell is very, 50-50 up in the air, and I get it. There's a lot of concerns in place, and health does come first, but you also can't expect like I tried to say before when I got cut off, which I understand I had 3 minutes, but I have had the privilege in some ways to be home with them since March. I have 2 kids with special needs, and I have been their one-on-one aide. And if it wasn't for me, they would not have made it through the end of the school year last year, and they wouldn't have made it through ESY through the end of today. So in September, I have to go back to work, or it becomes a financial situation where who's going to pay our bills? And, you know, that's easy for some, maybe, and that's great, and that's awesome, you know, that you can stay home and have that option. I don't have that option. I have to go back to work. But my biggest concern is the welfare of my children. So your back is up against the wall where you're really like, what do I do now? You know, do I give up my job to help my child? I mean, you know, that's a scary place to be when you have to work. So if anything can be done, and if the kids can't go back to school, and I understand the teacher's point.
3 minutes again. Sorry.
David Thompson.
Can you unmute him, Bruce? David Thompson.
David Thompson. Okay, Alex Bershadsky.
Hi, guys. It's actually my first time in this type of meetings, and I didn't know that we have union and teachers and parents in the same meeting, and we learned few new things. At least I learned. I learned that union is not to negotiate and bull around other people. It's interesting. Then what I heard from several people, that teacher did great job in sprint, and then I heard teachers who say that they did not have time to train, and they're not ready, they're not familiar with devices, and so on, so on. So it was very interesting meeting for me. I don't know what will be in the end, but definitely we should have a choice, and definitely we pay our taxes for something. And as I said before, if I would not come to the work, I would be released from the work. And someone who doesn't want to come to the work shouldn't come to the work. And I'm teachers. I don't understand how you can say you're doing great jobs, and after that you're saying that you're not trained, you didn't get this, you didn't get that. So it's not consistent. Thank you.
Tony Clark.
Thanks, Dr. Gentile. I'm not going to stay on too long, but I just wanted to address some of the comments that I'm hearing about the Teachers Association, the Teachers Union. And I know that you will testify to the fact that we have served as a partner in making this plan and working with you throughout the process from day one when the governor issued his road back plan. We have spent, I personally have spent, and our executive committee has spent their entire summer collaborating with the administration on this plan, because we were under the assumption that the governor was assuming that we would all be going back. We have operated under that assumption. We have been a partner with you. We have worked very hard. And people who are sitting here basically saying that we don't want to go back, they don't understand what we have been through this summer. That being said, of course, we want to go back. We all want to go back, but we need to go back in a way that is safe, that is secure. We have a lot of faith, but again, I think the issue has to be, we have to address the importance. We cannot have windows open in the middle of winter. We cannot have outdoor classrooms in the middle of winter. My sister's a caterer. Try getting a wedding tent. They're not out there anymore. They're gone. Everything's gone. So again, just so you know, the association has not been saying no all along. We've actually been working along with the administration since day one, working on this, and literally our executive committee has spent their entire summer every day working to help try to make this plan as safe as possible. All right, so just so people understand that, we have not said no. We have been working with you. However, we are seriously concerned about the safety aspects of it, as we all should be, because any question in your mind that, if you have a question, you should not send children and staff into, because again, those children and staff will be bringing it back to your homes and to your parents, and to your grandparents. That's the problem. And again, we all know that. And how long will it be until we have to leave anyway because it spikes? We see what's happening around the country. But again, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Michelle Macedo.
Thank you. I'll make it quick. As a professional mother, and so I've struggled with this decision. I am one of those people that haven't turned in my survey yet because every day for me is a different decision. I'm here at this meeting so I can understand the plan and make the decision that's best for my family with all the information available. I just ask that the board works through the questions and details from tonight from all sides so that parents can make their choice fully informed. I think the questions about ventilation, staffing, and COVID reporting and screening are so that parents can feel confident in the decision to send their children to school and teachers can feel confident in returning. I appreciate that you're offering parents a choice. You're all highly capable people, and I have every confidence that you will work through these difficult positions and questions. As a former PFA president in Hamilton, I hope the teachers know that the vast majority of this community appreciates and loves you. Do not walk away from this feeling unappreciated or like you are not a valuable part of our children's lives. We are all struggling in our own way, and I believe even the most hurtful comments tonight come from a place of frustration and fatigue with the way our lives have been transformed. What we have heard is that our community does not want to function without our teachers. Our special needs community needs your support and structure. All of our children do. We need to come together as a community to work towards solutions. I do not know what those solutions are, and I do not envy you for being in a position to have to figure them out. But we cannot afford to let this debate divide us because I do not believe this is who we are as a community.
Deborah Lawrence.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Deborah Lawrence. I live at 41 Oak Ridge Drive, and my children are rising second and fifth graders at UT Hamilton. And speaking this summer with friends who have children in the 3 other schools, it's been clear to me that there's inconsistency across the grade levels. And I think that giving the teachers more time to share ideas and prepare for this school year would benefit all of us. We had a wonderful experience with Mrs. Farrell and Mrs. Heston and all the other teachers our children interacted with, along with the strong leadership from our principal, Mr. Moskovitz. If they're listening, I want to thank you for your leadership and going above and beyond. It was your support that got our family through the rough time that we all faced as a community back in the spring. I'd like to ask the administration to have a backup plan, given the fact that it is likely, or at least possible, that the governor will send out an order for the schools to go fully remote. And in that backup plan, I'd like you to consider having an option where the schools would be open for virtual learning that is supervised for essential workers' children, supervised by trusted adults that are not particularly part of our teaching staff, while teachers remotely teach from their homes. I do think that that is an option to explore. I also would like to add that I think we have the best teachers, period. I have friends in other school districts, and we are the envy of the communities that surround our town. If the teachers do not believe that we are ready to start the school year in the classroom, I believe we need to listen to them. If that percentage was 20% or 40%, I might feel differently. But the percentage of teachers that I'm hearing that do not believe we are ready is staggering to me. I really do sympathize with all of the parents that have children with special needs. And I do think that the board and the administration should be thinking separately about the children that face challenges like that, and possibly even have a different plan for that group of children. But for the rest of us, I think we have to put more stock in what our teachers are saying about what they feel, not because of their personal preference, but because of the health and safety of our children and them. Thank you for the opportunity to share comments, for all of your hard work. I recognize this is a challenging time during the pandemic, and I'm proud to be a resident of Voorhees Township. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, our next meeting will be held August 26th at 7:30 in the Board of Administration building. public can attend remotely. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.